All right, hello. It's 2024, new year, new me, or maybe it's the same old, but we're back speaking with people in the industry of anime and manga. I'm here with Manga Alerts, Raphael.
What's up, y'all?
Somehow I butchered it, even though we talked about this
No,
beforehand.
you're good, man. You're good. Don't worry.
I'm just gonna go with
Don't
Raph.
worry
You know
about it.
what?
There you go.
Please, introduce yourself to people that don't know you.
Yeah, for sure. So, hello, everyone. My name is Raphael, or some of you may know me as Manga Alerts. I run the Manga Alerts Twitter account, or X, or whatever it is. Generally, I I cover manga restocks, manga deals, very similar to accounts like Wario64 and Cheap Ass Gamer, but for manga. Pretty cool. And then when I'm not doing that, I also co-host the Behind the Manga podcast, in which it's a podcast talking about different anime and manga news. We also bring in some cool guests as well too, so some translators or some letterers. So recently we brought on really great letterer Brandon Bovia, who's done some really awesome work. And then we also did David Evelyn, who was the translator on Undead Unlock. Really cool guy.
Awesome.
Both of them are really cool. Check them out if you can. But yeah, I'm super excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me out, and let's get behind the alerts or whatever it
Yes,
is. So
sir. Let's get into it. Like with manga collections and physical buying stuff, I do see a couple stuff on your shelf. Could you point out some of your favorite manga that you own?
oh
What is that?
man, you're gonna
Like,
expose me like that? Damn, all right, shit. Well, I would definitely say a underrated pick is B stars. Like I
mm,
understand people don't like B stars because it's like animals and everything, but
yeah.
hey, if you really like Zootopia and like the deeper message behind it, Beastars is definitely right up your alley, and that's definitely going to be something that really speaks to that sort of like, oh, what's the whole hierarchy thing? Oh, herbivores versus omnivores versus carnivores, and all that sort of stuff. And it's a really good drama too. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Let's see what else do I got here. Right now I'm looking through Candy Cigarettes. That's another good like
Haven't heard of that
action.
one.
Yeah, no, I was surprised that Seven Seas picked it up. It's a really
Mm,
good action sort of like, oh, someone from the underworld trying to live into like a normal life, but then kind of gets brought back in, with
mm,
some old kind of like, I want to say it's very similar to like Sakamoto days in that setup,
hmm
but it stands out on its own with its action and its story and everything. And let's see what else. The other thing I want to shout out would probably be everyone's favorite cat manga. What is it? Night of the Living Cat. So it's like a
mm.
zombie apocalypse, but instead of zombies, it's cats. And if you get touched by a cat, you become a cat. It's
Okay.
the premise is very ridiculous, but let me tell you, the art is fantastic. I think you should read it. And I know, again, in the space, people are like, "Oh my god, another cat manga!" But no, trust me, I think you'll like this one, especially around like when Halloween comes up and you want a spooky
hmm
read. Definitely give it a shot.
Bro, I'm sure Junji Ito probably read it already.
Oh,
Probably gassed it up
probably.
like
Oh, 100%. Absolutely.
knowing him. I have a little representation. This is actually one of the first manga that I've finished and picked up physically. This is the one and only Goodnight Punpun.
Oh, okay. All right.
I absolutely like, as you can tell, this is still sealed, and I
Oh,
bought
yeah.
this off Right Stuff maybe 2020, 2021.
Dang.
I'm like,
Okay.
I'm afraid to reread it. It's as simple as that. It is it's not for the light of heart, and it
Oh,
seems
yeah.
extremely comical, but like you got to be prepared to like just get sucked into little Pumpun's world is all I'll say.
Yo, yeah. No, especially with like some of the topics it covers and some of
hmm
the scenes that play out. Yeah, dude. Especially if you're not in the right state of mind, they'll hit you hard.
Oh yeah, 100%. I love Inio Sano, and I know on your podcast, Behind the Manga, you did talk about dead demons destructions anime,
Yes.
like the movies on there. So like it's great that you
Yep.
cover
It's
a lot
gonna.
of like current topics. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we try our best to like cover not just like specific stuff, because don't get me wrong, it makes sense to like, if you have like a niche or something to cover like something specific, but
hmm
on Behind the Manga, we try to cover everything. So from like shonen, seinen, shoujo, josei, webtoons if we can, if there's news for it. We try to
Yeah.
like be as broad as possible so there's at least something for everyone. I
hmm
know it's a lot of work, but it's worth it, honestly.
Yeah. And like even on like I checked it out maybe a couple weeks ago because I didn't even know you had a podcast because I think you
Right.
made like one tweet about it. And then I don't know
Yeah.
if you've like been like consistent on Twitter about it because I feel like you don't want to like bog down your tweets just on the
Right.
podcast itself, right? Or maybe it's on a different channel that you're promoting it. But I saw like My Dress Up Darling like switch to monthly release, and that happened
Yeah.
like in June. Like this was like months ago, and I was like, oh, like I think I had an inkling of it, but like I listened to that, and I was like, oh, interesting. Like this is one of my favorite manga, and like now I know why it's taking so long because like it
Right.
used to be bi-weekly, and then
Yep.
with any series that isn't monthly or weekly for me, like that bi-weekly schedule, like I always forget about them. So like I let
Oh
things
yeah.
stack up and then I'm like, oh, it's been like 2 months. I can read 4 chapters or something. And then
Yeah. No.
for
Yeah. Yeah.
Dress Up Darling, I was like, oh, like we haven't gotten that many, but good clarity, good insight. Like I appreciate it. Like
No, and what is it? It's funny that you bring that up because I do retweet every like post and like that we do, but the
mhm.
way Twitter is. I think you we're going
Yeah.
to talk about it a little bit later
W-
down the road, but
yeah,
yeah, Twitter's just been like
yeah. A
not
nightmare.
not that good, not that good. Let me keep it a buck, but yeah,
Like even like my usage for Twitter, like I'm there 10 minutes a day just so I don't get sucked in and like spend an
yeah,
hour trying to find things that I actually
yep,
care about instead of like
yep,
useless stuff that goes on the feed,
yep.
to
No,
say the
I get you.
least. I was thinking about the first time we met on Twitter itself. It was actually like
Yeah,
you buying a bookshelf. I don't know if it's the left or right one or if it's
which
still
one
with you.
is it? Because what is it? Both of these are the Target. Well, they used to be like $30, now they're like 40 something. But
Hmm.
no, these bookshelves right here really came in clutch. And don't get me wrong, I understand people like their Billy shelves, and that's fine and all. That's great. I know you Billy
Yeah.
warriors are out there, but I'm gonna keep it a buck. I'm not trying to spend $150 on a bookshelf. I'm sorry, but that
Mm-mm.
just seems like if I had the space for it, I probably would, but
Yep.
I don't.
Yep.
So these Target shelves right here, if you can find them on a good deal, which
Hmm.
most of the time they are, cop them. Because trust me, they've lasted me pretty well, and you can kind of see it has like a whole bunch of books that I'm still like in the middle of like organizing, but
Hmm.
they've held up pretty well so far. So
Yep. I mean, like I got I think it was a Billy. Actually, I don't think it was a Billy because it's usually out of stock. It was one of the like other alternatives for IKEA because I
yeah,
like for me, IKEA is like maybe over an hour drive. I'm like, I'm not gonna like just come like not get anything if I'm coming down here. So I just pick something
yeah.
up. But you like there is no bookshelf behind me because I moved in May of
Oh, okay.
2023. Yeah, last year I moved to a new apartment and I didn't want to carry that and like it's been a pain.
Yeah,
Honestly, the move so I moved like 2 blocks from where I lived in the old apartment
right.
and carrying hundreds and hundreds of manga volumes like really put into perspective like do I actually need all these volumes? Like it's really got me in my mind. It's like do I care about them? Like like I was
Yeah,
exhausted carrying all of these and I bet like Pun Pun I love, but I haven't opened this. I don't read physically that often. Like it's more of like a collection piece for me, and like I like showing it off because the spines for Pun Pun are great. It looks amazing on a
right.
shelf. But like that's kind of why I collect it. I don't generally read them as a first experience. Like I'd rather read it digitally if it's like on Viz, especially since that's a really convenient subscription. But like
Right.
that's more of my mindset when it comes to collecting, and we'll get more into like just physical media and the downfall of it, especially with like
Yeah.
adjacent stuff like what like steelbooks from Best Buy
Hmm.
closing down. Like
Yep.
the landscape isn't that great for buying stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. It stinks because, I'm someone who I would say I'm like about 50-50 with my
Hmm.
stuff. Some of if it's a better deal digitally, I'll pick it up. It's no big deal. But if
Yeah.
it's physically, if it's a series that I really, really like, then yeah, I'll pick it up physically. For
Hmm.
manga specifically, I mean, it just really depends on the availability, right?
Yeah.
Because there's some manga where we do have it luckily like in print,
Hmm.
and that's great. But I understand on like the business side of things, not everything can be printed because not everything is like its whole resources and if someone's actually going to buy it or not, and all this
Yeah.
other business junk or whatever.
Mhm.
So that's why it's in, as everyone makes fun of it, digital jail. But at the same time, though, it's like, well, if it because of digital, we have so much more now, and
Mhm.
especially like specifically with Kodansha stuff. There's tons of manga that's digital that they put on sale like pretty frequently. I think right now there's like a humble bundle for just like a crap ton of like digital Kodansha manga for like I think it's 300 volumes or something for like 25 bucks.
Oh, dang. That's, like,
Yeah,
insane.
no, it really is, and it has like some pretty solid titles in there. I think they have like Vinland, they have
Mhm.
what is it? I think they have Your Boy Kong Me. I could be wrong, but
Mm.
no. The last they did like an Attack on Titan bundle at one point where it had like almost all of Attack on Titan, including the spin-offs too, for
Like, the
like
no regrets and all of
yeah,
those. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, for like $10 or
That's
something like
crazy.
that. That's what I'm saying. And again, like I get it. There's some people who are like 100% die hard physical only, and that's great. That's fine. I am too,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
But sometimes, there comes a point where I gotta understand, like, yeah, there's some things that I would like to be printed, but they just aren't because they haven't yet. But I don't
Mhm.
mind waiting for a sale to pick them up. But yeah, no, that humble bundle has stuff like Shangri-La Frontier, Nina the
Mm.
Story Bride, Witch Hat Atelier. Let me see.
Oh,
Do they
all great
have
stuff.
and Drops of God up to volume 44, which that's
Oh, dang.
yeah, that's crazy.
I would say, just speaking on some of those, like Witch Hat Atelier is one of the only ones that I waited to read physically. I remember getting it in like the first like birthday or a holiday sale that I like bought stuff off of shout out right stuff like
Yeah,
back
yeah.
back in the
R.I.P.
day like
Back in the day. It's so
back
weird to
in the
say
day.
that. It's so
Yeah.
weird now. Yeah.
But I remember like buying a bundle of like 4 volumes, and they sent me one, two, and four, and three didn't come for a couple months, and I waited for three to show up so I can read it physically. Because like
Okay.
there's some like I know like if the paneling hits and like that page turn, you can't really emulate in
Oh
a
yeah.
like a reader.
Yeah.
Like
No, I agree.
nothing hits better than with manga. So like in your
I agree.
hand. So like
hmm
for those, like I will go the extra mile to make sure I have it.
Yeah, no. I think like a good example of that is Fire Punch. I know that
Yes.
one's another like controversial one, but
Mhm.
bro, like the first volume when Agni goes and like fully like punches someone in the chest and it
Yeah,
has like the what is it, the title drop of Fire Punch, dude, that
mhm.
that panel hit so
That's
different,
it.
especially on that double page spread. It
Yeah.
was so good.
Fujimoto is something else. Shout out to
Oh
Chainsaw
yeah.
Man, like
Yeah, he's a very interesting individual.
mhm. I'm glad that, like, they've, like, kind of, like, printed a lot of his, like, one shots in, like, bundles
Oh
or,
yeah.
like or stuff, like and, like, fully committed to, like, giving him props because, well, I mean, he's selling like crazy, so, like
No, it's insane because one of the things that people can tend to like not talk about with Fujimoto is like his stories are very Western influenced and he's
mhm.
very into movies. Especially if
Yep.
you read his one shots like Look Back and especially Goodbye Airy, you can
Mhm.
tell that dude really, really likes the way Western movies is. I would say very similar to like Kojima in a way.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
But
in the same
yeah,
vein.
in the same vein a little bit. But no, his stories are really good, and I think they provide a very unique perspective. Because fun fact, uh, I was originally on the I think anime and manga was dumb crowd. I thought it was dumb. I thought it was stupid. Now I didn't
Mhm.
make fun of anybody, but
Yep.
I was just like, oh, that doesn't seem like kind of cool, or that doesn't seem whatever. And then my friend kind of got me into it. I got into Attack on Titan, but then one of my first manga, and I think the first manga I ever read and then bought physically was
Mhm.
Chainsaw Man. And it especially
Nice.
was that like first chapter where I was like, okay, all right, it's about this kid who's down on his luck and he's got himself into this predicament.
Mhm.
But then when he got his Chainsaw Man powers and went super ultra violent and everything, and just the way the whole story played out made me go, damn, this is crazy. And it really made me go, I didn't know you could tell a story like this in this format. are there
Mhm.
other stories like that? And that's what made me
Mm.
go, pick up Fire Punch. And Fire Punch is a very big diamond in the rough. Like there's some things that I don't like about it, but there's other
Yeah,
things that I think it really does well. And I bought it twice. I bought it physically in English and physically in Japanese because it's just such a
nice.
very, I think we all do that sometimes, right? Where there's like a volume,
Yeah, yeah,
like a
yeah.
series where like we
100%.
really like we gotta go the extra mile and somehow find it in all languages. But
Yep.
yeah, no, man,
My
it's
top 3 manga I have in the original Japanese. So it's Vinland Saga, which is the first manga I
oh,
ever read
okay,
back in like
all right,
middle school. I was like bored, and my friend was like, "Yo, you want to check out this Viking gore?" I was like, "Yeah, say less." Like, let me check it out. And that was like my introduction to like the medium in general. And
yeah,
like I didn't consume or like read that much. Maybe like one anime and like one manga a year until like 2019 is when I brought it up, and then 2020 with the so much time on my hands, that's when I fully got into it. But yeah, like
yeah,
Vinland Saga, Act Dodge, which is tricky because you can't even get any in English anyways. So I have to get it
right,
in Japanese, and then Chainsaw Man's the first arc for it, like part one, the first 11. In
yeah.
Japan, there was like a box set for it that had like the pictures or the color pages that wrapped around it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I
So I
remember that one.
got
Yep.
that because English release for box sets are very hit or miss.
Yeah,
Like
I would
sometimes
say,
they're really just cardboard, and it's like, well, like,
yeah, no, like, what is it? It's funny that we talk about Kodansha, but like one of the things I don't like about Kodansha sometimes is you'll have box sets like the Princess Jellyfish, where it's like a nice like briefcase style thing where you can
mhm,
like take it, store it wherever you want, whatever.
yeah,
But then other series like the quintessential quintuplets or reincarnated as a slime, they have like
mhm,
the cardboard slipcase. And don't get me
yeah,
wrong,
it's
I think it's fine, but the quality of that like cardboard varies drastically. So you'll have
mhm,
some that like have like dents on the side or like
yeah.
it just doesn't hold up well or whatever, and it's just it ain't it.
And, like, they do good, like, let's say, like, for light novels in that case, like, Nisio Isen's box sets, very
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah.
very, very nice for Monogatari, but, like, even the Attack on Titan ones, like, the small, like, 4 like, set of 4, it's like, like, I don't it doesn't look nice, and I
Mm,
don't feel the quality out of it, like, I'd rather not pick it up.
yeah. I mean, it
But
has its
I get
place,
it's,
but
like, convenience for it, right? Because 'Cause let's say, like, oh,
right.
like, I want an arc and it fits perfectly in these 4 volumes and it's in this perfect thing, and it comes with a poster for the thing. I mean, yeah, I totally get it.
And especially like if you can pick it up on like a disc, because I also don't like how they price their box sets too. Because with like a
Mhm,
standard Viz box set, right, it's usually about like 20 to 21 volumes, and then the actual
mhm,
price is like 10% off MSRP. So even if like
okay,
let's say for example you waited for that box set, you're
mhm,
still getting a deal even if you pay full price. Now, granted, you should
yeah,
be waiting for it to go down lower, but if
mhm,
everyone's different. Got
yeah,
sometimes you just want to do it.
yeah.
Picking up at MSRP, fine. But with Kodansha stuff, the MSRP of that box set is the MSRP of each volume just added together. So it's like 77.96 or something, which I
Oh
think
my
is dumb.
goodness.
I feel like
Yeah,
you can, do okay with like a 10% off thing. But I'm not a
yeah.
business guy, so I don't know
No,
what
no, no.
the behind the scenes is like. But
Of course.
yeah.
I mean, like, one of my favorite box sets is the Tokyo Ghoul Re one, and like
Yeah, oh
I
yeah.
got that like more than 50% off because like on Amazon one day it was just off, like 60% off or something. I was like, oh, okay. Like, let me pick it up. This is maybe in like 2021 is when I picked it up, and like I don't know how often. I don't usually trust Amazon for my purchases just because like
Yeah.
shipping is hit or miss. But
Yep.
now that there's no right stuff, like I don't know of any company that does do good shipping just because like I haven't bought manga in a while. Just
Yeah.
out of like not really fear, but like if I'm going to get a volume, like I want to be the one to beat it up while I read it. Like I don't want like the UPS truck or whatever, like throw it around and beat
Yeah.
it up. Like it's not the
Yeah.
same. Like
I get you
yeah.
100%. But
Where
you know,
are
I
Yeah, go ahead.
go ahead. No, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
So, where are the deals nowadays? Like, I know you post it
Mm,
often, and I think, like, you fall in the same vein as Wario64 for me in terms of accounts where, like, your deals are so good that, like, I have to, like, mute you on certain weeks when, like, my paycheck hasn't come in because 'cause I'm like, I can't spend money this week, like, I need to hold off." Like, I'll come, like,
yeah.
scroll through your stuff, like, when that direct deposit hits, like
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, man. Sometimes I am my own worst enemy because there would be times where, like, man. But since you asked, I'll give you the goods.
Yes, sir.
So locally, me personally, I would have to give it to Books a Million, especially if you have one near you, because hear
Mhm.
me out, right? They'll sometimes do a buy two get one free sale, and that's on all manga, right? But here's
Mm.
the kicker: if you have a Books a Million membership, they'll give you like a coupon code where it's like 20% off $100. So you
Mm.
can get yourself like $100 worth of manga under the buy two get one free deal. You can stack that coupon on top of it, and you're pretty much paying like better than Right Stuff prices, or well, Crunchy, whatever, but
Crunchyroll, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Crunchyroll, yeah. But pretty better than like retail. So I think it's like
Mhm.
even like what, like 45% off on some things, which
That's
is
kinda crazy.
insane.
Does that work
Especially
on, does it work on, like, the exclusive, like, covers for,
yes, it
like, certain
does. Yeah.
vault? Oh my
Yes, it
goodness,
does.
okay.
Yes, it does. And going what I was about to say earlier was it also works online too. Now online's kind of iffy because sometimes they'll include
Mhm,
all the things, sometimes they don't include all the things, which that's fine. And I know
mhm.
other times they'll like throw on like a random discount. Like I think right now, I'm not sure if they're still ongoing as if you release this, but there was a point in
Yep.
time where they released the let me see that Vinland Saga Deluxe edition that came out
Yeah,
like
yeah,
recently. That was like
mhm,
54.99. They
mhm.
have it for 50% off, and it's like it just
Yo,
came out. Like
what the
you're
heck?
selling it for that's what I said. I was like, hold
Wait.
on, wait a minute. It was 54. I bought pre-ordered it on Right Stuff for I think it was like during their sale or whatever, like their last
Mhm,
hurrah sale,
mhm.
and they were selling it for like 20 something. Like, dude,
That's
that's crazy.
crazy.
That's what I'm saying. And it's very
Like,
underrated, but I yeah.
even, like, the Berserk volumes when they went on, like, the deluxes when they went on sale, like, didn't even go down to, like some of them, like, hit, like, 30, maybe just, like, tickled, like, that 20,
Yeah.
but, like, 25 is crazy. Like,
Oh, yeah, 100%.
what the
100%.
heck?
Yeah. But what is it? But for me personally, I would have to give my full recommendation with a Libris. Now,
Mm,
with a Libris, they're a bit different. They're more of your like traditional book marketplace where it's like very old school. It's very like, you know, oh, you kind of have to go through like a different marketplace of people. However, their prices, again, like I said,
mhm,
very similar to like Books a Million, they are also under retail. So, for example, I
mm,
bought all of Delicious in Dungeon because
mhm.
of the anime coming out and everything.
Yep.
And those volumes, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Yen Press, but $15 a volume, they can get expensive pretty quick. So, seeing that Alibris had some of those volumes for like $10 a volume, and then they
Uh-huh.
also run like weekly coupons where sometimes it'll be like, oh, if you spend X amount of money, you can get $5 off or $10 off on top of your prices too. That's pretty solid as well.
It's not bad at all. I mean, speaking of,
Yeah.
like, really insane deals, like, you putting out that Legend of Zelda,
Oh
like,
my god, dude, that
that
was a
stack.
yeah,
I
yeah,
saw it. I was, like, in bed. I saw your tweet, and I was like, "There's no way this is real, right?" But, like,
yeah,
this is our dude. Like, he's gonna
yeah.
find it. I was like, "Alright, let me just, like, like, troll a little." I bought it, and then I was just waiting for the cancellation, and so far, it
No,
hasn't
see,
come
here's the
in. So,
funny
like
thing. Someone told me that they got a cancellation email, so I'm like, let me go check my thing. I haven't
mhm,
gotten one yet. So,
mhm,
but with me, I combine it with like other deals. So for context, for those of you who don't know, the Crunchyroll store had usually like after like a big license announcement, because they did like the Viz license announcements like a bit ago,
mhm,
they'll put them up on their website. And with the Crunchyroll store, they have everything, I think like at max like 15% off already,
mhm.
something like around that price range. Um, and usually it's like, oh, okay, you can get kind of a deal on some of these things.
Yeah.
But they messed up somehow, somewhere,
I think it was
and
like
they
it was supposed to be what, like 110, like for the
110 or
entire box
something like
set,
that.
and it was like
Yeah,
10 or something. Like
it was like
somebody
ten
slipped up.
dollars. And um, fun fact, if you didn't know, you can use the coupon code CRNEW to get an
Hmm.
extra 15% on top of your stuff if you haven't used it before, or if you
Yep.
use another email, but you didn't hear it from me. Um, but yeah, that went down to like $8 for the box set, and it's like that's insane. And again, usually with those things, it's like, oh, okay, they take down the listing, which they did, and then
Hmm.
a cancellation email will come out soon.
Yep.
That cancellation email has not came to me yet, and
Same.
so if we
If
came
it
out with
shows
a
up,
bag,
yeah,
if it shows
like
up, you're right. I
uh,
mean,
I
there you
won't say
go.
no. Like,
Yeah, yeah, you're right. I won't say
yeah.
no to a $10 box set.
Hmm.
And
Man.
then what else? Yeah, have you been on in stock trades?
For shoes, yes.
Yeah, what
Haven't
is
been
it?
for manga, but like, is there like a good? Are there good deals on manga for in stock
So in
trades?
stock trades, right, is
Yeah.
a site for usually they sell like comics and everything, right? But then
Hmm.
they just recently added in like they had manga for like a little bit, but every so often you'll get like pretty solid deals on like you were talking about like the Berserk box or the Berserk deluxe editions earlier, right?
Hmm.
Sometimes they'll discount them for like 28, like under $30,
Which
and
is
their
nice.
packaging is, yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
and their like packaging is like super super top tier because
Mm.
they deal with comics, so you know how they are with their comics. You want
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
make sure that's all good to go. So, and I think recently they just threw on a bunch of manga on their like manga section for sale, and there was a
Hmm.
few deals where it was like you get I think it was like Oshinoko Volume 4 for like $3,
Dang.
and I think they had like Homunculus for like, I think it was like Homunculus Volume 3 and 4 for like 6, and
And those are
shipping.
like pretty big volumes too for homunculus, right? Like,
Yeah. Oh no, they're
like
like
they're not the
like
yeah, like
big
they're not
boys
the
like that
normal.
one.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. And I think shipping's like $5. So even if you don't hit like the minimum shipping threshold of like
It's
50
not the end of the
bucks,
world.
you're
Yeah, yeah.
still not like paying. I think it's like 23, 20, whatever the heck the price is. Yeah. So
Hmm. I mean, like for people that like don't buy manga that often, like $3 is ridiculous for like
that's what I
like
exactly.
for a volume. Like, I mean, especially with the price increase, like now what's like the floor for like the cheapest you can get a volume for at retail? Is it like is it above 9.99? Can you not get it below 9.99 anymore for retail?
So in some retail stores, or
Hmm.
excuse me, let me backtrack a bit. In some places and in some titles, yes. So especially like newer, if we're talking about specifically Viz titles,
Hmm.
newer like releases, the lowest you're gonna find is like 11.99. That's their like standard pricing for like your standard like Shonen Jump manga, right? And then it
Yep.
goes up. I think it's like 14.99 for their like
The
Viz
signatures.
Sig or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
and then like the JoJo's hardcovers that are originally $20 are now like 25.
Hmm.
But some retailers like Target or Walmart will slap on like a 20% discount,
Mm.
so you're getting like right stuff pricing in stores, which is pretty cool. So
Yeah.
I've seen, but the caveat with that is it's only like the super super popular titles. So like Chainsaw Man, Totally Bound Hanako Kun, Blue Lock,
Hmm.
Fire Force. So if that's all you buy and that's all you're into, then for sure 100% they got you. But
Hmm.
those like more niche titles, like again, like Night of the Living Cat or Candy Cigarettes or Blue Giant, you're
Hmm.
probably not going to find them there.
Mm.
And again, it's really up to like what these publishers market them as.
Yeah.
It stinks because like you were talking about earlier, before they were at like that like 9.99 price, and you're able to like for $30 you can get 3 volumes, which is a nice good start point for like getting jumping into like any series.
Yeah, yeah.
But now you're paying like almost 35.
Which is like, I mean, it's it like makes you think a little more, right? And like
Right.
realistically, like sure, like printing wise, and maybe like just the expense, like for people that like haven't watched like the Dempa like interview that I did last year, like prices are pretty expensive when it comes to like doing it in the US versus like the amount of volumes that you're trying to put out. So like look, like I get it. Like eggs prices goes up, like manga is a luxury. Like that price is going to go up too, like realistically. But
Yeah,
it's it sucks like at the end of the day.
it sucks, but what's really nice about manga is like again, no one is forcing you to buy it. That's
Mm-mm.
the big it's what you are personally comfortable with, and if you are able to be patient enough to wait for a sale.
Yep.
Again, it's not a race to like have all this manga behind me
Mm-mm.
or anything like that. I mean, sure, it's very easy to like get caught up with like all these people with these like insane hauls or like, oh,
Yeah,
look at
yeah.
my 100 volume manga haul, and it's like, dang, dude, that's crazy. But you don't need to do that. You don't need to like
Mm-mm.
really get into it. You're okay to just pick and buy what series you really really like and collect
Yep.
what you just like physically, and that's perfectly okay. No one's gonna like vilify you for having a quote unquote basic taste or whatever. If
Oh,
that's what you're
100%.
into, that's what you're into. And especially now, like we were talking about earlier about digital manga, you have a
Mm-hmm.
whole plethora of stuff that you can read digitally now through like
Yep.
the Viz app, the Shonen Jump app, Manga Plus, K Manga, which again we'll get into it a little bit more. But
Mm-hmm.
there's like a whole plethora of things you can read all through like your phone or
Yeah,
online
and
too.
like
So
there's like only one downside to it, and it's you technically don't own it.
yeah,
That's like the only thing, but like you have unlimited space for pretty much like it will never take up space. You just need a device that connects to the internet and can download their respective app or whatever like the process is. Like super convenient. And like
right,
the middle school me that like was reading like manga on my like PSP at like the Barnes and Noble's Wi-Fi,
dude,
like
that's insane. That's actually you read that on a PSP.
yep. Like
That's
we were
bro,
scrolling
that's
through. I was reading I believe it was like Rookies because I read it as it like ended or something, or like maybe that's where
okay.
I got it. Like it's a core memory, but like I imagine like I can just go on my phone and like download the app and like
Right,
199
no,
for like
exactly.
Viz, super reasonable. Like
Right, that's what especially for some of the titles that are on there, like, you could like what is it? I remember, me reading, when I was younger, and I think we'll go into it a little bit more, but,
mhm,
my mom tried to get me to read, Naruto, and I just never
yeah,
did anyways, and then it wasn't until last year where I was like, "You know what? I haven't really read any of the supposed big 3,
big three,
so I'm
yeah,
just
yeah.
yeah, so let me go ahead and, just read them all." So I read
Hmm.
Bleach. I think I read Bleach physically from
Hmm.
volumes 1 through 21, and
Yep,
then the Shonen Jump app came in the clutch, and I was able to read the whole thing digitally, no issues, no
nice.
problems. Then on then I think I went to Naruto,
Hmm.
and yeah, I read from volumes. I somehow still had volumes 1 through 4, although they are like very beat up, like the spine all like cracked and crap.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I was able to read all of Naruto and Boruto for on that Shonen Jump app. Even though it's like 100 chapters like a day or whatever that you can read,
Yeah.
it was a fine experience. I
Mhm.
enjoyed it a lot, and I didn't felt like I missed out on anything.
And like 100 pages is like a pretty good chunk of time if you're not like blitz reading like these pages.
Oh yeah, like I mean, for
Like
me, I can like if it comes to like manga reading, if
mhm.
I get started, I'm not gonna stop.
No, yeah.
So
I think for me, I haven't read Bleach. That was the only one that I didn't like touch at all. And so I watched it an episode a day last year. So I finished OG Bleach and I'm on the Thousand Year Blood War. I'm like one core or one season in, so I
yeah,
have another season, and then the new one's coming out this spring. So whenever like this anime like section finishes, then I'll actually tap into the manga. So like
did you watch or did you skip the belt art?
I watched because I'm a little bit of a purist and I treat things as like anime only, even if it's filler and usually it sucks. I have a little bit of FOMO. Is like, what if like I get the one episode that's like done by this like esoteric director and he's just like popping off? Like, what if I miss it? So let me like sit through it. And
Yeah, no, I get
it's
that.
only an episode. It's like 22 minutes. I'm eating my lunch while I'm watching this one episode a day. Like, it's not too bad. If it's good, it's
Yeah,
great. If it's terrible, it's like whatever.
yeah, it's not the end of the
But
world,
the
right?
yeah, the Bound arc sucks. Actually, most of the arcs in Bleach suck. I wish I actually read it when I was little because like I would have been like more primed for it. I think I'm not on the demographic anymore, which isn't to say that shonen is just for kids because I do enjoy some shonen that I've read recently, but it's just not for me, and that's okay.
Right, exactly.
It's one of those like heritage like you do hear those words big 3 get thrown around everywhere and like I watched Naruto and One Piece in like a summer together when I was little, so like I was like might as well knock out this third one.
Yeah, what is it? For me, it was again, I never watched any of the big three at all. I just
Mhm.
read I think I've read all of them. I'm working through One Piece right now. I think I'm on what is it? Thriller Bark.
Nice.
That's where I'm at right now. But in my case, I started with Bleach first,
Mhm.
and then I read through Naruto,
Mhm.
and then reading through One Piece.
Do you watch anime as much, or is it mainly like manga is your like bread and butter? Like that's what you read?
I would say before it used to be 50-50,
Mhm.
but I find myself reading through manga more because I know there's some series that's just not going to get an anime adaptation at all. And
Mhm.
rather than just wait for it, I'll just read
Yep.
through it.
Yeah, yeah.
And especially with like Bleach, for example, right? There was a big gap between the last arc and Thousand Year Blood War. Now, don't get me
10,
wrong,
10 plus
Thousand Year
years,
Blood
yeah.
War is
Mhm.
great.
Yeah.
That patience paid off, and I'm really glad Studio Period is taking the time to like not do it. Oh, it's gotta be week by week. We gotta like
Mhm.
crunch and do all this stuff. No,
Yep.
like they actually like said, nah, dude, we gotta do this core by core, take our time with it, and it's paying off a
Mhm.
lot. So I'm like, you know what? Again, it's like when you read the manga, it's one story, but then when you watch an anime of that same story, it's a different interpretation of it, you know?
100%. Yep.
And don't get me wrong, there are some that are just one-to-one adaptations, and that's fine, that's okay.
Yep.
But I really like the ones where they really take that source material and elevate it to a new level.
Mhm.
So for me, I would definitely say the two that stick out to me would be actually three that would stick out to me would be Oshinoko volume or season one. That one really, man,
Yep.
Oshinoko season one blew my expectations out of the water. I was there when the review happened in Boston, and it was
Yep.
great. It was fantastic.
Nice.
Um, Shangri-La Frontier, that's another one I was not expecting to have like such a solid like animation.
Yeah,
Period.
to timestamp this interview, like most recent, I believe episode 18 came out and
Yep.
like they popped off, like
They
to
popped
say the
off.
least.
I
Like
like no, they did.
like
They it's like the action sequences are really good. The
mhm.
sound effects remind me of like Fire Force or Doctor Stone. Like you know how in like Fire Force or Doctor Stone when they do like a
That bass
clash or
hits.
something, that type of
Yeah.
bass hits. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Shangri-La Frontier just blows that out of the water. Or it's like I
Mhm.
wouldn't say blows it out, but like is on the same level.
Yeah.
And then I guess it's a bit of a controversial one, but Chainsaw Man. Don't get me wrong. Even
Yeah.
though for as many people on like if you were to scroll through Twitter, you would think like so many people hate the Chainsaw Man adaptation. So many people think it's dumb, it's stupid, or whatever. No, dude, it's perfect. Now, yeah, it has some like issues or whatever, but again, like I said before, Fujimoto really, really likes Western films, and
Mhm.
it's a very Western inspired story. So the fact
Yeah.
that it the whole thing played out cinematically and like played out like a movie and added a few things to like give some context to everything, like what is it? The fight between Aki and Katana Man,
Yeah.
great.
Fire.
So like just the move, just like the weight and the emotion of that fight hit different. The whole Makima scene where like the prisoners go over there and she does the thing,
Mhm.
crazy. Like that was
Yep.
a fantastic. And yeah, I mean, it just I like it. So
I mean, loop into one of the manga you pointed out at the very beginning, like Beastars is a great example of like
that's
the
another one too.
manga
Yeah,
and anime being completely different in execution, but like still great. I've only watched the anime. I've read like the first volume just to like dabble in, and the art is great. And hopefully, once like for me, if an anime is announced for a manga I'm interested in, I'd rather wait, watch the anime, and then read the manga. Because if I go the reverse order, I start comparing the manga and the images in my mind filling in the panels with the anime,
Right.
and it's like I'm never satisfied. So I'd rather
Yeah.
watch the anime and then see, oh, okay, this is what the manga looks like. Um,
Yeah.
so like a lot of like new series that like come out, maybe like Weekly Shonen Jump, like Akane Banash or something like that. Like I know this is most likely gonna get an anime, so like it's okay that I'm reading it weekly, but like if I didn't know about it, I would rather wait until that happens. But
Yeah.
for series that like will never get an anime, like I'm there. Like let me binge
Yeah.
through this read, like because
See, I
you
thought
never
Danadon
know
was
how
not
long.
going to get an right. I
Yeah.
didn't think Danadon was going to get an anime, and next thing you
Hmm.
know, Science Star, the guy that just did Scott
Crazy.
Pilgrim, got it, and I'm like, all right, we're sold in. Even though
Mm.
I'm caught up with Danadon, I'll be there day one when episode one drops because you
This is
already
gonna
know
be
it's going to go.
wacky. Yeah.
Yep, and they are perfect for it, 100%.
Mm-hmm. But no, that makes sense. I think like I know like a lot of people say that like pacing is a sort of thing, and there's like you get to do like almost your own self pacing when you're reading manga because you can either go through the material faster because you're not like stuck on an actual time ticker of the anime episode. I think manga still has like its own pacing with how it flows, but I do think that's like one of the bigger strengths for being able to just read it.
Yeah, and like you said, it's a whole convenience thing, right? And
Mm,
really, everyone's time is different. Everyone's free time is different. Everyone's space is
100%.
different. And the thing that's really cool about, anime and manga is like it's accessible.
Hmm.
Now, especially nowadays compared to before, it's super accessible. You have, if you have the space for it and you can sit down and read it, go ahead and read the light novel. Oh,
Yep.
there's a manga adaptation where you prefer, a bit more visual medium, go read that too.
Hmm.
Oh, is there a anime that animates the whole thing? You can do that too. You're not gonna. I mean, granted, there are some things that you'll miss out depending on like which adaptation you go through,
Yep.
but you have the ability to choose which one you want to go through, or you can
Hmm.
go through all of them and
Yep.
see how your story, gets interpreted by different people.
Hmm. Exactly. And I think one of the biggest things for like someone in the shoes of with this like plethora of options is like you got to do your research and you got to really like pick the thing that fits with you, right? And I think it goes for both of us when we do our stuff, like diving deeper and making sure we understand everything is like the vital essential to being successful in any kind of way.
Oh, 100%. I agree.
What kind of a I guess like now that you're way more established and like again, congrats on 30K on Twitter, like kind of crazy.
Yeah,
Like
it's funny how, when I was on anime, okay, so funny story. When I was at Anime NYC, before I was there, I
mhm,
did like a Attack on Titan giveaway.
yep.
And before I was at like I think 24, 25K,
Mhm.
pretty respectable. I'm not someone
Yeah.
who's like really big on like follower count or whatever. I just think like, oh, that's pretty neat.
Mhm.
Okay. Then I go down and trust me, if you guys never been to the Javits Center, trust me, the service there sucks.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was struggling. I somehow
Yeah.
still got my tweets out, but let me tell you, I was struggling hard. And then like one day, or like as I was walking to like the main hall, I think it was with you
Mhm.
or someone, I like
Mhm.
refreshed the page and then bomb, it was like almost at 40K. I was like, what happened?
Yeah.
I guess what is it, the Attack on Titan giveaway? Because for those that don't know,
Blew
I
up.
run
Yeah.
giveaways weekly
Mhm.
because for me, I understand that I'm in a very privileged spot with like, with how everything is. And there's some people who simply put don't have the same access to manga that we do,
Mhm.
right?
No
Whether it
doubt.
be here in the US or somewhere in another country where, manga is not easy to come by or whatever.
Yep.
And I find that, disappointing because it's like there's so many great stories in manga that so many people don't know about, but they
Mhm.
can't access it because, it's not their fault they can't access it.
No.
So me being able to like bridge that gap by doing these giveaways, and I haven't stopped these giveaways. I've been doing them I think like once like on the grind ever since I started,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
it's become like a staple for me now to do it.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
like
because
to
I
go back,
remember,
yeah,
pretty recently you did one on Freerun, which was really cool, like the art book
yep,
or
I
something
did,
that came out.
yep,
Yeah.
I did that collab with WS's Talkback, and we,
Mhm.
we cooked
Mhm.
on that. We cooked on that one, and it blew up. So,
Yep.
yep. But yeah,
How do
going
you
back,
feel. Mhm.
um, yeah, it's so funny. So I did the giveaway, and then everything, and then I guess something happened with Twitter, and now I'm back again to 30K. So
Yeah.
hey, I got to
I
celebrate
mean,
the 30K thing again. So
exactly.
hey, there you go. What were you gonna say?
Um, how do you go around, like, shipping outside the US? Like,
Oh,
are
great
there any,
question.
like, big hurdles for it, or.
Yes. So depends. So for me, my usual trick is to only purchase stuff that I'm able to ship stuff out from. So
Mm,
before, I'm not sure if you remember, there used to be a place called Book Depository,
yep,
and that was
in the
the
UK,
gold
yeah.
standard
Mhm.
for like anything. Like you can get like different languages, you can get different stuff. Sure, it was like a little bit more expensive than like buying it locally, but they
Yep.
shipped everywhere. And
Mm,
then, of course, in typical corporate fashion, Amazon shut it down. And it's like, well, great, fantastic.
yeah.
So now, for those who are maybe listening internationally, really your only good best bets are Better World Books. That's
Mhm.
who I've been using, and they've been pretty solid with like shipping everywhere in the world.
Awesome.
Or Blackwell's UK. That's another good
Mm.
alternative where they will ship to you. But the only downside is sometimes you won't get a tracking number. So it's just kind of like make sure you put your address in correctly, and then it just goes into the void, and then you
And
gotta
hope
wait
you get it. Yeah.
and hope you get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most of the time you do, but
Mhm.
yeah.
Interesting. Because, like, I do, like, I was talking to you before we got on, like, once I get started on videos for Hoseki no Kuni again for this year, like, it's gonna be, like, never ending for realistically, and the plan is for the next 108 weeks. So whenever it starts, I'm not stopping for a while. And I do want to
Right.
do like giveaways and do those kind of engagements. So
Yeah.
a lot of my like fans are in like the Philippines, Russia, like countries that aren't the US. So like I want to have the access. So I guess I'll check out those two areas to do shipping for around the world. Like definitely a helpful resource.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, there'd be times where like if it's not on there, I mean, I
Mhm.
get paid pretty decently well.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm just like, I'll front the cost. It's not like a big deal. I mean, yeah,
Mhm.
it stinks because sometimes like shipping well, like, I think one time I tried to ship to, like, South Africa, and it was, like, $50 for, like, 1 volume, but for me, I see the value in that because it's like, okay,
Because
the
someone's
fact that
getting that product. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
exactly, and the fact that I went ahead and did that, and then you
Mhm.
see, I think we're gonna kinda go into it a little bit more, but I
Mhm.
see other people who are trying to also do giveaways not do that. It
Yeah.
makes me stand out, and it's like, "Oh, this guy will go the extra miles to make sure I get my stuff." While
Mhm.
everyone else is like I mean, I understand why they don't do it internationally,
Yeah.
but if you have the means to do it, I don't see why not.
Because like for people that don't like ship, I guess like within the US, like especially with like manga and like DVDs and that kind of stuff, it's considered media. So you can ship it as media mail, and like USPS, like the US Postal Service, like does a flat rate anywhere in the country essentially, depending on kind of distance and how heavy the item is. And it's like
Yep.
generally like a volume that's close to you is like they just up the price, but it's like about $4.
Right. It's not that
And it comes with
expensive.
the tracking code, and like
Yep.
that's how I like send stuff out within the US. So super, super convenient. But again, like because we're in the US, like it's easy to get these stuff. Like you don't have to get it from us. Like you can get it from literally anywhere. Like do you feel like there's a big difference between like manga centric companies that only focus on like manga and volumes versus like anime centric ones that focus on like DVDs, I think those kinds of sales? Or do you feel like they all fall under the same vein of like
I th-
English
y-
localization?
I definitely feel like before they were probably I mean, I would definitely say in Japan they go hand in hand, right? Like you
Hmm.
come up with the manga first and then I mean, sorry to say, but like the anime most of the time those anime adaptations are just a commercial to buy the manga
Oh,
basically.
100%. Yeah.
And if that anime does well, then we'll see more of it. Now, here in the US, and something that, like, again, it's fortunate, but like we are not the target audience for this stuff, right?
Mhm.
Anything and everything that goes, and we'll kind of again go into it a little bit more, but everything is ride or die or dependent on what Japan likes. If Japan really, really likes something, then chances are it will come over here, and then we'll have it released in English, and then we'll have an anime adaptation. But
Mhm.
other times there will be some stories where the U.S. really, really likes, but it just fell flat in Japan. So I think a really good example is the Hunters Guild Red Hood. I
Yeah.
mean, I was a huge fan of the Hunters Guild Red Hood,
Mhm.
but it had issues with its story. There's like a whole backstory behind that one too.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, it just didn't do well in Japan, and lo and behold, it only got three
Like 2
volumes.
volumes, I think, or 3
Yeah,
volumes,
two,
yeah.
three, yeah, 3 volumes. Yep.
And the ending to that was a big FU almost, like, which,
Oh yeah,
like, big props to that mangaka, like, for going there, like
yeah. So for context, for those of you who don't know, there's like a whole like TL like big backstory behind like why it happened. But long story short, the reason why Red Hood didn't do so well, in my opinion at least, is because they did like a really good introduction arc, which is great,
Mhm.
fantastic. But then
Yep.
they did it again for some reason. I don't know
Mhm.
what the decision was there to do 2 introduction arcs, and then they did an exam arc right after that. But the
Yep.
actual exam itself just didn't, like, I don't know what was going on with the pacing there.
Mhm.
And then it was right around that time where they said, okay, hey, like the story's not doing well. It's like you're done.
And, like,
And
the art was great because it was an assistant for, Horikoshi, the My Hero Academia, like,
yes,
mangaka, so,
yeah,
like, the art is really nice, but
the art is like insanely good, but the story itself and everything was just. And then, like you said before, towards the end, it was like a pretty big like metaphor on like, oh, these people don't understand my vision. Oh, these people,
Mhm.
whatever. Like, I don't like whatever. F you to like Shueisha and everything and all the
Mhm.
editorial and stuff. And then like even in that like bonus chapter, it still kind of felt like, but yeah,
It is what
but
it is. I think, what's interesting that's going on pretty recently is, like, something like Kagurabachi, which, like, is crazy both in Japan and in the US for interesting reasons.
yes, yes, yes.
Like
That is a very, so for those that don't know, Kagurabachi is like one of the new batches or one of the new titles that came out in Weekly Shonen Jump, and
it's, like, under 25 chapters still, like
under
or, like
25 chapters.
yeah.
And here's the funny thing. So it started off as like usually with us in memes, right? Usually it starts off with like making a joke or something or whatever. And then if enough people find that joke funny, it'll blow up like pretty fast. Like the whole,
Mhm.
oh, it's Gojover, that whole thing,
Nod, win, like, all of those,
that the
like, yeah,
nod win or all that other
yeah,
stuff. But with
yeah.
Kagurabachi, it was like just, it first started off with like the whole, oh, this dude is super edgy. He wakes up in the early in the morning to bring in extra hatred.
Yeah.
He can't cut down, or what is it? He won't let slime wield katana and everything. But what was interesting too is the artwork was very good,
Yeah.
especially for like a chapter one. And it was like, even though it's simple in story and simple in whatever, its execution was just like incredible.
Yeah.
And then as we got more chapters, it was like, wait a minute, this isn't just like it's like a super edgy teen or whatever. No, this is some like actual legitimate, like, there's something here.
And it's like it's
And
one of those, like, similar with, like, Chainsaw Man, and I don't wanna compare it to Chainsaw Man, but, like, it
right,
moves the tide of, like, what Shonen Jump is, right?
right,
Which
right.
is amazing. And, like, for people that don't know, like, when the volume 1 came out pretty recently, it sold out on, like, 6, 7 big websites. Like, completely sold out, immediate reprints, like, um, just insane to be. Oh, and on top of that, what Viz and a lot of these companies do is they do like edits with the chapter to put on like YouTube or other platforms where they like animate it and give it voice actors. Kagurabachi is one of the first ones, and not one, the first one to get an English version of this, which is like unheard of.
Yeah, what is it? Shueisha. I don't think it's Viz who mostly does. I think it's Shueisha. But
Shueisha is
you're
one,
right.
yeah,
Yeah. No, you're
yeah.
right though. usually in Japan they'll get like an animated preview of like the first 3 chapters with like some voice actors and everything, and that's
Mhm.
pretty standard for like most of them, right?
Yeah.
But like you said, Kagurabachi was the very first one to get an English release, because usually if you try to access them, it'd be like, oh, it's not available in your region.
Or, like,
But
you have to do, like, the auto translate
yep,
Japanese and then convert it to English, and it's, like, broken English. You're just
yep.
trying to, like like,
Mhm. Ah,
follow
exactly
along.
right,
Yeah.
yep. But with this one, it was like, again, like you said, the very first one to provide English subtitles for it, right?
Yeah.
And that's insane. So hopefully, you know, it continues and it, makes more changes within Shonen Jump and Shueisha,
Mhm.
so that we can get
Because
more titles in that too. Yeah.
exactly, and because this will lead to more English, titles that get this treatment, which
Yep.
obviously is great because
Hmm.
we want more access to this kinda stuff, like
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
you have been, tweeting about when Weekly Shonen Jump drops, like, on Sundays, which, again, I find really helpful because I always forget. Like, today, like, I woke I see you on my timeline, it's, like, 10 something, I'm like, "Oh, ew, Jump dropped. Thank you." Like,
Yeah, no.
let me go read the chapters. Did you always do that? I don't know if you
Yeah,
did.
so what is it?
Yeah.
It was one of those things where, and it kind of goes into like a little bit of like what you were another like topic here later on, but
Yeah.
it's one of those things where sure, yeah, I do generally like manga deals and restocks, but I don't want to do just those things. I don't want to like pigeonhole myself into doing just that. What
Mhm.
else could I do that's just super easy to like do, but also very helpful and convenient for people to like know about? And
Yeah.
funny enough, even though you'd think, oh, everyone knows Shonen Jump comes out on Sundays, you just like prove them all wrong. Where it's like, oh, I
Mhm.
didn't remember like Shonen Jump chapters come out today. Oh, thank you for
Like,
and not
people
only
are
that,
busy, like, we need
yeah, people
constant
are
reminders of things, like
right, exactly, and being able to do that for people, even though if it's like just one person found it helpful, that's more than enough for me to like say, all right, I'm going to go ahead and keep going and keep doing this. So,
do you schedule these tweets? I know, like, Twitter has the option to schedule, like, some of them. It's, like, kind of annoying to schedule it because it always, like, defaults to, like, 6, 7 days ahead.
oh yeah,
Like,
yeah,
super weird UI, but
yep, yep. Um, when I used to like work full time, because I work in retail. I'm like a manager, and I
Mhm.
have like tons of experience in retail and books selling and everything.
Yeah.
But with for those of you who don't know about like how scheduling that works, it is not always consistent. So some people have like that 9 to 5 job, and that's all their schedule is, and that's great.
Mhm.
But in the retail space, it really fluctuates. It's really hard to have like that consistent schedule. Sometimes you'll work on weekends, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you
Mhm.
work in the morning, other times you don't, and it's just a whole mess.
Yeah.
But scheduling did help a lot. So what
Mhm.
I would always do is if I was doing a morning shift, I would
Mhm.
wake up early, like
Mhm.
2 hours before I would go, and do what I usually do and schedule them out like in like 5 minute increments.
Yep.
And then, usually that's more than enough. And then I come back home and catch up. But
Yep.
if I do a closing shift, I would tweet live. And then again, if something happens, like a break or something, I'll like go on my phone and tweet it out.
Mhm.
Now I have myself more free time, so I really am able to like pick and choose what I want to cover.
Yep.
So I didn't have to like rely as much on scheduling. But if
Mhm.
I'm like doing something that day, or if
Yep.
I'm like I'm super busy that day, then yeah, I'll go ahead and schedule something out.
Makes sense. I mean, like, your Twitter, and is that the only have you moved into other platforms, or is it just Twitter at
Yes.
the moment? Okay. So what other
So
ones are you in?
right now I've been doing Instagram,
Mhm.
Blue Sky,
Mhm.
Threads,
Okay.
the Behind the Manga website,
Yep.
and then I'm playing slash toying with the idea of moving to also TikTok and maybe YouTube, because I
Mm.
think those two platforms would be very interesting. Because I've never done video editing before. I've done audio editing before, but I've
Yep.
never actually like put my ideas and myself into like a video format. And I
Mhm.
think it would be very good for me to challenge myself creatively to be able to do those things.
100%.
But on those other platforms, they are very similar to, the Twitter account, where like on Blue Sky and Threads, where it's basically alternates of Twitter.
Yep.
You're going to find the same stuff there. I
Mhm.
recently found a lot of people were on. I was surprised, like before on Threads, you wouldn't think that many people were on there for manga, but
Mhm.
there's a lot of people on there, and my page was
Mm.
blowing up like pretty recently. I think right now, actually, let me do a quick check.
Yep.
But like I remember before this year, I was at like under 200,
Mhm.
and then in the span of like 2 months, I blew up to like 782,
Oh,
which is
dang.
like, yeah, that's
That's fast.
crazy.
Like,
That's what I'm saying. I'm like,
yeah.
dang, that's insane. I didn't know there was that many manga people on Threads.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
hey, if there's an audience for it, I'll make content for it. So
Mhm.
there you go.
Mhm. Nice. I mean, yeah, that's awesome. And some of the things that you've definitely helped me on is like definitely the right stuff receipts when it was merging to Crunchyroll, like for tax purposes and other
Hmm.
reasons. Like I need to like keep track
Hmm.
of like all the ones I've bought and when I bought them and how much I bought them for, just because it's
Yep.
important to keep inventory. Like super, super helpful, like in that case.
Ye-
And the summertime hardcovers, which you definitely broke some news there when it came to it.
Yeah, yeah, and that's another thing too. Is it's funny that you mentioned the Crunchyroll Right Stuff merge, because for those of you who don't know, I was the one who broke the story and blew up and everything. So the way it happened was I was talking with like a publisher friend of mine, and they gave me um like, hey, here's an email that I got, but don't leak who I am, but I'll give it to
Mhm.
you. And I'm like, oh, can I post this? And it was like, oh yeah, you can. So I
Yep.
posted it, and that blew up. It got onto trending on Twitter for like 2 days. Another Twitter account tried to like take credit for my thing, and then someone else corrected it, and then it was like a whole
Bruh.
mess. And I was like, no, because they said, oh, it was affiliates that got this, and I
Mhm.
quote retweeted and said, no, that's not true. It
Yeah.
wasn't affiliates. It was through publishers or whatever. But then, yeah, I basically, sorry, Crunchyroll, for any Crunchyroll employees who are watching, but I basically lit a fire under their ass, and then they kind of scrambled because I basically ruined their plans. So sorry.
Hey,
But
Crunchyroll, if you do want to sponsor anything, I'll pretend to love you. Just hit my DMs up. I'm like,
no, but yeah, no, and it was really funny because you would think, oh, okay, so this guy like broke the thing, but
mhm.
in a turn of events, they actually came to me to help promote their stuff, and I'm like, what the heck? No, I'm serious. Like I had the DMs between
Yeah.
me and the Crunchyroll store, and we were
Yeah.
DMing back and forth, like, oh, hey, could you like maybe tweet out this sort of stuff? I'm like, yeah, yeah, I could do that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which that right, and that's not the first time it's happened.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if you remember this, but do you remember when the K manga app got leaked?
Yeah, and like
Yeah,
The Viz like almost like sniped it basically with their
yeah,
launch of
yeah.
the Viz Media app.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. So I was the one again who was the first one to report that Screen Rant. Again, for those who don't know,
Mhm.
Screen Rant leaked that Kodansha was doing a K manga app, and I reported on it. And then everyone's
Yeah.
like, "Wait, what the heck? That's crazy!" And then everyone's like, "Oh, well, that's not true." Blah blah blah, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it turned out to be real, and it's like, "Oh, what the heck?" But it was interesting because I was very critical of like, there's someone else, I think somewhere along the road said like, oh, you're affiliated with all these things, or like, I don't really take you seriously. No, dude, like I can be very critical of some
Mhm.
of the stuff I use. Like I can love like these manga and everything, but I can still be
Yeah.
critical about it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I was very, very critical of the K manga app with like,
Mhm.
its monetization system, its ticket system, and all this other
Trash.
stuff.
Yeah. Like,
But guess what? They still the Kodansha Japan still wanted to work with me to promote their stuff. And again, I promoted Your Boy Kong Ming, which if you haven't, read it. It's great.
mhm.
Um, but yeah, we they chose me to collab on like their Kodansha welcome party, and it was great.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think you saw my name and their whole thing, and it was fantastic. They did a whole thing, and I think Gigik was on there, which was cool. And
Nice.
there you go. It's
I
funny how it
mean,
works out like that.
this is how you break into the industry, right? Like you gotta
Yes.
stay true, be consistent, and show that you are respectful. Even if
Yes.
you give constructive criticism, like it's okay to be like go after these companies, but as long as you do it in a somewhat respectful way, they'll understand that, it's a business. They get it. Like people make mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah, and to kinda go a little bit more into that, because this kinda goes into, like, one of the questions you're talking about.
Yep, let's go with
Um,
it.
what is it? Especially with content creation, right? I mean, for me
Mhm.
personally, I don't call myself a content creator because I just feel like that word, one of the people who I spoke to, like, very early on really, like, laid it down for me. It's like, that word just feels icky to me.
It's the
Like,
same
sure,
thing
I'll
as
say it.
a
Yeah.
influencer. Like they're under the same veins. Like,
Yeah, it just feels very icky to me to, like, call myself that. But, I mean, I'll do it if it's like, oh, like, if I have to explain it to someone who doesn't get it or whatever.
yeah.
But it just feels so icky because when you say that, all these, like, negative connotations come in. Because when I think of that, I think of someone who doesn't care about their morals, doesn't care
Mhm.
about their ethics, doesn't care about whatever, is super engagement driven, and will do anything and everything for an engagement
Yep.
no matter what, and will produce stuff that's not true to themselves. And
Mhm.
you can tell too. And it's not just specifically within like the anime and manga space, right? Because
Yeah,
this is
this
one of
this
those
can
things
apply
where it's
to
like everything.
anything. Yeah.
Right. But shifting it back to manga and anime specifically, uh, when I first started out and I saw a few of these like, Twitter pages and whatever not, some of them were great and they were like super true, and other
Mhm.
times, they call themselves like the number one source of news and then they just bail.
Yeah.
And the big thing for me is just staying true to yourself and really like telling yourself it's okay to not go after everything. Because for
Mhm.
me, again, I don't cover everything. I would
Yeah.
like to, but there's not enough time in the world to do that.
Mhm.
And I run everything by myself. I don't run it like, I mean, okay, let
And
me
you
backtrack a bit. I run the manga alerts account by myself, but
Mhm.
behind the manga, I have myself, Winter Venom, and Vampy. Us
Yep.
three work together to create that, which again we'll
Mhm.
go into a little bit more. But
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
specifically the manga alerts account, it's all me just by myself. And
Yep.
there'll be times where like, I just don't feel like covering that story, or like, oh, it's something and I'm just like, it's not like that big of a deal. And that's
Yeah.
okay. That's fine. I'll let like if someone else covers it, I'll give them a retweet. I'm not gonna like or do a quote retweet. I'm not gonna go and take someone's information and pass it off as my own. Like that's
Mhm.
another thing too that I feel like helps me set myself apart too from these other like manga accounts on Twitter
Yep.
is if I'm able to find a source, I'll source it. Now I
Mhm.
know Twitter does not like it when you do links in like the
Mm-mm.
first tweet,
Yep.
which stinks. And I know I've kind of like did some A/B testing on that, and
Mhm.
yeah, it stinks that I have to like not do that. But there's other
Yeah.
times where like, no, I don't really care. I think
Mhm.
it's not that hard to find the source of wherever you get it, whether it be from
No.
like ANN or Comic Natalie, which is like the biggest site for anything. If you want like Japan manga news, granted you have to do
Mhm.
Google Translate to like read it, but
Read it, yeah.
anything anything and everything manga related, you could probably find it on Anime News Network, Comics Natalie, or in the rare chance like it's only exclusively in a magazine, you can just buy the magazine and credit what magazine you got it from.
Yeah.
It's not that hard to do. But there's
Mhm.
some accounts that just, when you call them out on sources, they just don't like that and they act a certain way. And it's like, don't get me wrong, I get it. That's how the game is, but your actions really do reflect. And it's again, whenever you do something online, it stays on there forever, right?
Mhm.
A lot of people are looking at you for like what you do and everything. And I'm, guilty of it too. Like there's some times where like I say something or like I, make a call out post or something and it doesn't work out well. And that's fine. I
Yeah.
I don't like, I take in the criticism, I take in the feedback and I put it towards making myself better. There's some people
Mhm.
that don't do that. And, you know, there's some people who don't do that and they wonder why they aren't growing. And
Yep.
there's some people who, do take the feedback and take the criticism, and guess what? They're super successful. So
I mean, definitely like it's it's like interesting because these like news sites or news like accounts seem very impersonal because you're just providing information that like I don't want to do the extra work to find this myself, so I'm relying on you to do that. But if you inject your personality just a little bit, like it has huge like drawbacks sometimes. For you, it's not because I've known you for a while and I trust your information and like you get like the way that you tweet gives off a personality that is like like really reliable, but others, and I mean we're an hour and 10 minutes in so we can start name dropping, and whoever's here is here, but like there's one particular one, Manga Mogura, like anytime there's like a sly comment or something like that in the actual text that isn't just like here is a statement, here's the fact, this is where you can find it, like it pisses people off. And I wonder
Yeah.
why there's such a huge like disconnect there.
Yeah, and it's funny that you bring up Manga Magura, but like I said before, it really just depends on what you want out of your content, right? Because again, the thing with Manga Magura, and for those that don't know who he is, Manga Magura is a Twitter account that does a really good job of providing pretty much anything and everything like manga news related. So if you're looking
Mhm.
for something where it's like, oh, what's like a volume one, what's a synopsis, pretty good. He's also pretty good at keeping track of like some of the magazines that's often not heard of because again, for those that don't know, in us in the US, we barely get that news anyways. The
Mhm.
only time we'll even get that news is either through again ANN, but sometimes ANN can be slow and they don't really have like it's like by the time they get the news it's already like a day or two past, but Manga Magura does a really good job of like getting that news and getting like the magazine specific stuff that often doesn't get talked about.
Mhm.
However, over time though there have been some like inconsistency issues with like the way they report the news and whatever. So the biggest thing that I can remember, because again I don't really like keep track of like the drama or anything because I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
it's, and I'll kind of go into it more, but
Mhm.
one of the big ones was there was this webtoon. I forgot what the name of it was, but it was a very racist webtoon that like depicted black people in like a way that wasn't supposed to be done. And then you
Mhm.
had like one of the characters like who was white dropping the N word with a hard R, and it was just like, dude, how did this even like happen or whatever?
Mhm.
And it was uploaded to webtoon,
Yeah.
and like what the heck, like this is like how did you guys let this like thing get uploaded?
Mhm.
And granted, again, that is like for me, I personally wouldn't cover that story because it
Yeah.
just seems like there's a lot of nuance to it.
Mhm.
And I'm someone who always like waits for like all the information to come out first before tweeting out something, at
Which
least.
is like really interesting because like you are the one that broke a lot of huge stories, and the fact that you wait to make sure to confirm these things like shows like come on, this should be common practice, like.
Right, exactly. But again, there's some people who, take that extra steps. Like, for example, recently the whole like weekly Shonen Jump crackdown, right?
Mhm.
I waited
Yeah.
to get confirmation on some stuff before I tweeted my stuff out. But
Mhm.
there's other people who didn't wait and then just posted some stuff and it's just a whole mess. But
Yeah.
going back to the webtoon thing, again, like I said, it's a whole lot of nuance, there's a whole lot of thing. And the Manga Magura account went and tweeted out in opinions. I think it was stating something like, um, I can't remember, but it was basically an opinion that didn't sit well with a lot of people. And a
Mhm.
lot of people really called out that opinion. And in that case, if that was to happen, I mean, hey, it happens, right? Like not everyone's perfect.
Yeah.
All it would take is just a simple, hey, we'll take it down the post, we'll, take a better look next time at like our editorial stuff, and
Mhm.
all this other junk, right? Like pretty standard stuff.
Yeah.
But that's not what happened here. What happened was um they doubled down on their opinion, and then they tried to play the race card by saying, hey, I'm actually someone who's a person of color. Here's my arm. And then in typical, fashion, because anytime you start off some like drama thing with like, so here's what happened on Twitter, you already know some like wild stuff's gonna
Mhm.
happen. Someone from their group made a like expose account or something, right?
Yeah.
and exposed the fact that the arm that was posted on the account wasn't actually the main guy, it was someone else, and exposed a lot of things.
Mm.
So for those that don't know, Manga Magura is not this single person. It's an actual group of people who come together to produce this news. That's how they're able to um, like provide this constant news almost 24/7.
Which is
Now,
totally understandable. Like to be
right,
able to pump that out, like one person can't do it all. Like,
exactly right. And again, it like I mean, at behind the manga, we have the same thing. We have me, Winter, and Bambi, and then
mhm.
everyone has like a group of people, right? Whether it's from like a small YouTuber hiring on like an editor or a script writer or whatever. I'm pretty sure that you have of like a few people who you work with, like produce the
Yeah.
videos you do, right?
Most of
But
mine are
yeah,
like project by project, but yeah, like I have a thumbnail artist. I have someone that
yep,
sometimes edits for me, and I have someone like recently I've been doing a lot of like doing commissions for translations, which becomes very expensive. But since no one's done it, like, and Kodansha won't, Kodansha, um, like someone's got to do it. So
right,
like, it
right.
is what it is.
Right. But the big thing about it is vetting your crew out, right?
100%.
That's the big thing. Because a lot of times, especially on like the social media space, right, you'll see people who on the surface look to be fine, look to be cool, who look to be, whatever. But then later on, they do something that's completely unexpected and completely off the cuff.
Hmm.
On that thread, I think it was like revealed that Magura himself, like the main guy who runs the account, wasn't even there. The whole thing was ran by the crew. And it's
Yeah.
like, dude, that's not okay. Like, especially if you're trying to like run this account that's like supposed to be the number one news source, right?
Hmm.
You should vet your people out because again, going through the whole thing, it was exposed, again, the person who posted the arm wasn't actually the main person. And
Hmm.
then, there was a talks of them issuing an apology, but then someone said, no, don't do that because that will ruin your integrity. And it was just a whole like toxic thing. And I think the big message that came out of that whole thing, right, is surrounding yourself with toxicity isn't really going to get you anywhere, especially
Hmm.
if, again, you're put into this like role and you have this like responsibility of providing the news. Like if like there's some people who are like, oh well, that's their fault, for relying on me, they could just always whatever. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
no, dude, like if you have a platform, like it's an unspoken rule, but you have a responsibility to at least do your part to be at least respectful for the most part. um
Hmm.
you know uh Uphold yourself, right? At least
Yep.
act within like the best interest in everything, and
Hmm.
at least do your own due diligence to make sure like whatever you put out is there. Now I'm
Yep.
not saying like like, oh, you have to be perfect or whatever, blah blah blah, because I'm not
Yeah.
perfect too. I think it'd be
Hmm.
very hypocritical for me to like call out this person but then I can't whatever, because there have been
Yeah.
times where I've posted something where it wasn't the right move, and you know what, I didn't like take it down or block people or anything. If I said something that was out of line, I let people roast me. And
Hmm.
I like I kind of put myself into like, okay, if there's smoke, there's fire. If someone really like took the time out of their day to critique something of mine, then that means
Hmm.
I'm doing something wrong, or
Yep.
at least there's something there in the process. So I take a look at it and then I go, huh, I didn't think of it that way. And I implement it, and lo and behold, here I am. But in this case, again, blocking people who have a different opinion than you, doing this whole, uh, oh, I'm just gonna send my army after you if you like disagree with me and all this other stuff. That's not gonna get you anywhere, and it's just
Yeah.
gonna burn more bridges than it is gonna like help you get more established. Because again, right,
100%.
everyone, especially these publishers, right, they know what you're doing. It's
Hmm.
not like they are ignorant of it. Like they will
Yeah.
look at you and kind of like see what actions you're taking. And if you're not taking the right actions, chances are they're probably not going to work with you. And it's not
Hmm.
just for him specifically, it's for everyone,
Yep.
right?
100%.
So again, it's like you got to really like vet yourself, vet if you're going to do it with a group, you really got to vet your people out, man, because sometimes there's just people who you think have your best intentions but they don't, and when
Hmm.
the time comes you either got to like make that this like unfortunate decision to cut them off or
Hmm.
whatever. And I
And
mean,
like one of the big
yeah,
things is like the person running like this. base that you create for like the account or a channel or like a company or whatever, like it all comes down to like brand, and the person that creates the brand has to take that heat, and everyone associated to that is tied to that brand, that entity, that like, oh,
Right.
like when I think of manga alerts, I get this. When I think of inspirational, I get this. And it has to stay consistent as much as possible. Like
Right.
there's no way around it. Like one of my goals in the future is like for Hoseki no Kuni to get another season of the anime, and I want to be there to cover that as in depthly as possible. So like building relationships on the English side, because I mean I speak English, but like ideally I would want to get in contact with Studio Orange, get contact with like Kodansha in Japan, and like really like put my name and my platform with that IP. I think I do that to some extent in like a fandom base, which is great, but being able to have like this access to these resources that I can share with everyone, obviously, like is a isn't much. It'll take longer, but like that's building that credibility. There's no easy way of doing that.
Right. And again, like I said before, I mean, in the end of the day, I mean, I guess he's still doing fine, so it's whatever,
Yeah,
right? But which
and it's
that's
not
fine,
like
you know.
yeah, yeah,
It's not like it's the end of the day, like, oh my gosh. But
mhm.
again, when you have stuff like this happening consistently, right?
And like
And
a
when you
recent
have,
example of this is like when Dempa was like, "Hey, like we don't actually have reprints for this," or there's something with like Heavenly Delusion. Or I don't actually remember which volume, and like because of the nature of Manga Morgora and like the fans that are associated with it, like started attacking the Dempa. Like it was kind of crazy. Like,
yeah, and I will take fault in that one too, because I
mhm,
also did kind of like get involved into that when I shouldn't have. I felt like that
yeah,
was definitely a really big learning lesson for me, because I
mhm,
definitely like I said before, it's funny how I talk about like doing my research before posting stuff, but in that one,
yeah,
I thought, again, with how everything kind of like looked and played out, it was like, yeah, let's go ahead and go with it. But then it turns out, it is what it is. But
yeah,
again, like you said, it's like when you when the goal of your account is specifically for engagement and not
mhm,
really providing the news. Sometimes, and again, surrounding yourself with that toxicity, focusing on engagement and all this other stuff, right?
mhm,
Stuff like this is going to happen,
yep,
and it's just going to hurt you in the long run versus the short run. Now, sure, yeah, you're still going to have people who are going to like stick by you, and that's fine. But how long
mhm,
is that going to take? Because I
yeah,
remember like when the whole arm thing happened, and a lot of people just unfollow them a lot. Now
yeah,
they probably gained it back, which that's fine. That happens with excuse me. That happens with everybody, right?
mhm,
But again, like I said, your actions speak louder than words.
yep,
And the fact that in my case, I took accountability for, jumping in with the whole Dempa thing and getting it
mhm,
wrong
yeah,
and learning that lesson and applying it to future things, right?
mhm,
I'm doing great so far. So far,
yep,
no issues, no problems yet. I
mhm,
don't think I'm in any drama. I don't think so. And, I'm able to, go from there. But again, it's just one of those things where it really just boils down to how you want to run your account, staying true to yourself, or if you just want to go engagement bait. I mean, it doesn't matter at the end of the day, but yeah,
yeah, and it's not like because we're in this space, it's not like we're like being buddy buddy with these publishers or these like companies
yeah,
like I'm not affiliated with Dempa. I've had a relationship with them, and it's an open relationship that's getting nurtured slowly along the way. But like if they mess up, like like I'm not gonna be like, oh no, like I gotta get my money, like because one,
yeah.
I
I
don't
gotta
have a
jump in and
sponsorship or anything. Like yeah, like I'm not gonna
yeah,
defend people for no reason. Like
right, exactly. And again, it's I think the big thing, and I think what is it? Again, we'll go into a little bit more with
mhm.
this recent Beckett grading thing, but
Yeah, yeah, let's get to
it's
it. Hmm.
yeah. So for those that don't know, Beckett is a grading company that specializes in grading trading cards, so like Pokemon cards,
Hmm.
baseball cards, football cards, whatever. And then recently, they announced that hey, we're going to go ahead and what is it? Start grading manga now. And
Hmm.
everyone was like, wait, what?
I can't read
You're gonna
it.
grade you're
Like,
you're gonna grade manga. So in a traditional sense, like when you want to send in something to be graded, you're either doing it to resell it, or if you're really like a collector's, right, then or like a collector item, then you would like what he has here.
yeah,
Again, you would want to just have it graded, whatever, and it's just like a collector's piece, like a conversational piece or whatever, and that's
yeah.
fine. Like you can do what you want with your money.
Mm,
But in this case, they were really, really trying to uh, dive into the reseller side of things, which for
yeah.
those of you who don't know, manga reselling can get really, really bad, really,
Mm,
really fast, especially if publishers don't reprint a certain series, especially like shojo titles, like older shojo titles, like for example Red River, which just recently got a reprint through their 3-in-1 omnibus. But
it's
before
crazy.
it was like
Yeah, selling for
borderline
mad. Yeah.
impossible. It was like borderline impossible to get that at a reasonable price. Like there's some people who would sell it for like 400, 500, even $600, which is just absolutely ridiculous. You should never pay over retail for manga at all,
Yep.
because at the end of the day, all this stuff is a disposable medium, right?
Which
That you're
will
gonna probably
degrade over time. Like it's
Yep.
like,
Yeah, sure, you can try to preserve and everything, but at the end of the day, it's a degradable medium that's gonna rot over time, and
hmm
it's not that much. It's not like, oh, it's a $100 investment. No, it's at the end of the
yeah.
day, the $10 or $11 volume. It's not that big of a
hmm
deal, at least. I
hmm
don't think so. But no, they want to go ahead and go into this, and they got, rightfully so, blasted on the internet because the way they tried to explain it was, okay, so here's we're going to grade all this different manga. Here's the different ratings and everything. But then in the actual marketing material for Beckett, they gave, I think it was like Jujutsu Kaisen Volume uh 1 a
hmm
grade. I think it was an 8 or a 9. But if you
Yeah.
actually looked at the photo, the pages were yellowed, the spine was misaligned, the
Yeah.
corners were dented, and I was like, okay, bro, like what are you doing here? You're saying like you have some experts who are looking at this manga, but really? And then people rightfully so roasted them. And
Oh,
then they tried to
100%.
like defend it, tried to defend their stuff. I mean, they didn't really go out of their way to defend it. They just, kept posting about it, saying like, "Oh, this is such a great deal. Oh, this is a great way to preserve your manga. Oh, this is a great way,
Mm,
whatever." But looking at the pricing, it's, if I remember correctly, you have to pay shipping
mhm.
to get a box and a shipping label,
Yep.
send it off, then pay for the actual grading service,
Mhm.
then you get it back,
Yep.
and then if for some reason you don't like it, you have to pay. I mean, it makes sense, but you have to pay again to send it back
Yep.
if they mess up or do something.
Mhm.
So you're already let's say for example, you bought, I don't know, Dick Fight Island Volume 1, which is like
Yep.
a 9.99 volume,
Mhm.
and for some reason you said, I want this to be graded. Well, you got to pay. I think it's like $25 to get the shipping label,
Mhm.
and then another like $60 on top of that to get it graded. And let's say, for example, as they were grading it, they ripped open the saran wrap that's wrapped around the volume, and they dented the book, and they gave you an 8 grading, and you're like, I don't like that. Well, you got to pay even more to get it fixed. And it's like, yeah, you know what? This is stupid. This is
Yep.
no, absolutely not. No.
Is
And
it do they delete everything? Like, is it actually still a thing or like what's
no.
going on
So they're
there?
still okay. So they still have I think the posts up, but as people were critiquing the posts, they were
Mhm.
blocking them and deleting comments. Nowadays, I don't think they are.
Uh-huh.
However, they did reach out to a few manga tubers,
Mhm.
and they got a sponsorship through them. Now, me personally, when I saw the thing, I'm like, dude, no, looking at it, you're just feeding into a speculation market, because at the end
100%.
of the day, that's what these graded things are. They're a speculative market that ruins the accessibility for some of these titles, especially if it's like
Mhm.
a title that like is no longer in print or something, right?
Yeah.
And especially if it's a title where, like I said, it's out of print, there's not a digital release for it, and there's no way to access it. Instead of like, doing the right thing and like requesting the publisher to like at least print it again, or like making it accessible for everyone.
Mhm.
I get it. Like again, everyone's has their own thing that you can do what you want to do with your stuff,
Yeah.
but to just resell it for like 3 or 4 times more the price,
It doesn't make any sense.
like a really good example, Initial D. Remember how like that's a long series. I think it was like the English release got up to, when it was on Tokyo Pop, I think it was like what,
20
20 plus
or something like
20
that?
plus
Yeah, yeah.
volumes, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Tokyo Pop fell or whatever, and
Mhm.
then it was just out of print or whatever until Kodansha picked it back up,
Mhm.
but then they released it in digital only. But
Yep.
then those singles went from anywhere between like $500 to $600, which was just insane.
It's
Like
ridiculous.
you could put that money towards something else, dude. And then lo and behold, Kodansha, out of because I was on team, I don't think they're going to reprint it because it's too long, it's whatever.
Mhm.
But then lo and behold, they announced the omnibus for it,
Yeah.
and not just an omnibus for it, but different cover variants for it. I'm like, oh, that's
Mhm.
pretty sick. And guess what? The prices of those singles went down. So
Yeah. Which is awesome. Like it's great for these companies to understand like, oh, here's a gap in the market that I can actually fix. And I can make money while doing it, obviously, because people want like fresher versions or a different version of the classic that they loved. Like, I don't know. Like I've had some dabblings with like grading stuff with Pokemon started like last year is when I got into
yeah.
it.
Hmm.
And I've done some grading with PSA and like it's very similar. Like this is like the standard when it comes to grading is like you pay for the insurance and shipping and then you pay for the service. But
Right.
with cards, it's like a nice display, and even for manga, I think at the end of the day, it will only ever be like a nice display. Like you shouldn't be grading like your entire collection. I think that's dumb and a waste of money. But like, let's say
Yeah.
you want to do one, and like you have such a huge surplus, and it's like your favorite manga. And one thing with Beckett is they have this thing called a black label, which I don't know if they have it for the manga version of it, but they have it for like for Pokemon cards where there's like a 10 that's like perfect, super like amazing, and they put like a black like coating around the plastic or whatever. It doesn't actually protect it against UV or anything that would be helpful for manga, but
Right.
it looks pretty. Sure, it's cool, and it sells for a dumb premium. Like let's say like the raw card or the raw volume sells for $10. A regular like 9 or 10 maybe sells for 100, and then like the black label, which is like the peak of Beckett, maybe sells for 1,000 on like a good day. So like, there's definitely a market for it. They're playing in on the hype. That's about it. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like I think it would be funny to do a video just like testing it out because
Right.
like these graders like probably have never graded like comics are different because they're a lot thinner. Like these volumes are way different to grade. Like
Yeah, but like, what is it? Grading something like this?
yeah,
Like, come on.
how
Like,
how do you do it?
would you,
Like
how are you gonna do that? Or like, great, someone sending in, what is it? Uh, do I have it near me? No, I don't. But like, someone trying to grade, what is it? Um, freaking a Berserk Deluxe Edition. Like,
yeah.
seriously, dude. Like, how are you gonna do that? Like, that's
Hmm.
just no. Like,
Especially when
no.
like the
Like, that's
printing quality of like English is not that great. Like sometimes it's good for like the premium products, but like
yeah.
for the most part, like they're not worth putting it in a case like to
Right. No,
that extent.
exactly. You're right. And it's
Yeah.
like it doesn't hold on, something fell down in my
No, no
space,
worries.
but We are. I think we're good. I think that was my Berserk Deluxe trying to run away from me, trying to grade it or
It's like,
something
don't
like that.
yeah, it's like, don't put me in a box,
Something like
please. Like,
don't put me in like a plastic container or
yeah.
whatever. No, because that's
Yeah.
what it is, right? So at the end of the day, after all that, you put it gets put into like a plastic container with like the stamp on it, and that's it. But like you
Mhm.
said, it's like, okay, is that gonna like really protect from like UV or
No.
exposure? And you could still achieve the same thing if you buy the three like spend like 5-10 bucks on Amazon and get like the plastic sleeves and just sleeve up your
Yeah, yeah,
manga and
yeah.
call it a day.
Or, like, get a
So
like, a nice acrylic stand and, like, tilt your volume on there, like, that's a display, like, it's it's the same thing.
right,
To each their own,
right,
obviously, like
right. Like if that's what you want to do with your money, go ahead. Like we're not here to say you can and can't do because I feel like it's
yeah.
very hypocritical and people are just gonna like like have their own reasons and that's fine, right? Like there's
Yeah.
some people who just go out and buy manga for MSRP when you can
Mhm.
very much go to somewhere else and get it for cheaper. But everyone's different.
Or
Everyone's got their own thing.
like, they won't buy, like, a future volume, like, let's say, like, they're buying, like, Banana Fish, and they're like, "Oh, I have 1 through 4, I have to get volume 5 next." I'm not gonna read it, but I have to get volume 5 next before I buy volume 6, even if there's, like, a nice deal on your account saying, "Oh, like, volume 10's, like, $2, like, yo, pick it up." They won't do it, and that's just, like, their quirk of their buying habits, like, it's
Yeah,
okay, like, we're not here to judge. Like, for me, when I'm buying, like, the first volume of, like, a series, like, I wanna collect the first volume of every series that I've ever read in English
right.
whenever that happens, but, like, I'm picking, like like, World Trigger Volume 1 yellowed out, like, messed up pages for, like, 50 cents because I'm like, "Yeah, I just want it to show that I've read this series, like, this is how I
Yeah,
collect." That's enough for me, I don't need more, like
right. And like you said, everyone's different, and like we're not
yeah.
here to like judge or anything. But there
Mhm.
are a few inches like observations that we can make on some of the like purchase habits or whatever. So
No,
it
for
is what
sure.
it is. It's whatever.
Speaking of, like, purchase habits and how kind of we can, like, make money off of it, because like, Twitter, like, posts and, like, YouTube, like, views and AdSense don't make much, like but there's other ways
Yeah.
that we can make money, and it's usually through affiliates,
Yep.
and like you mentioned earlier, like, these affiliates don't mean we're, like, we got a collar around us, like, where the company can pull us on our leash and be like, "Ah, like, please buy this, like, we need money," like, that's not the relationship this is, but they do make,
Yeah.
like it's an interesting dynamic that I don't think a lot of people understand, like, what it actually entails.
And that's something too that also makes me stand out because as far as I'm aware,
Mhm.
I'm one of the few that is very open with like how much I make with my affiliate money.
Yep.
Like that's one of the things that like a lot of people again they take it for granted, but it's for me, um with an affiliate link, right? For those of you who don't know, like basically, long story short, it's like a specialized link that you can click. You don't have to do anything else more. But basically, what it is depending on which website you go on, you click the link, you buy something, and then a portion of your like we get a cut from a portion of your sale. So if you like spend a
Mhm.
lot, oh, we'll get a decent amount of money. If
Yeah.
we don't get a lot, then it's fine, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, for
And
me, I'm a
each company is a little different, like, some of them it's like a percentage base, some it's like a flat rate, or, like,
yeah,
it's within a certain window of time, like 24 hours after you click this link on this site, whatever you buy on there will give a little bit of a kickback to the creator
right,
that you used the link for.
right. For me, when Right Stuff was still a thing, I
Mhm.
would get around like $300 a month. And
Oh,
then on
that's
like a
nice.
really good week or like a really good month, so like whenever they do their summer sale or whatever,
Mhm.
like one
Mhm.
time I reached like $1,000. That's
Nice.
just like insane. Um, generally my bread and butter is Right Stuff slash Amazon. That's like where I majorly get my money from. And
Mhm.
then again, I worked a part-time job, so or not part-time, excuse me, full-time job.
Yeah.
So I have that income as well too. But for me, what I do is I take whatever money amount I get, I
Yep.
take 50% for myself because like I mean,
You're
granted,
putting in
it
the
is what it
time and effort, like totally
yeah,
understandable. Yeah.
it's totally understandable. But then I take 30% into taxes because that's another thing people don't talk about is if you make money through affiliates or
Hmm.
whatever, trust me, at least set aside some money for your taxes because trust
You
me,
pay a lot.
you pay a lot
It's
and
one of those like it's not like it doesn't matter if you make like six figs or something. Like it's the type of money that you're getting as this affiliate. Like no matter how much you make, like it's in a different bracket in a sense. It's like and I don't think it's entertainment. This is not tax advice, by the way. Neither of us are tax consultants in any kind of way. It's just our experience. Disclaimer. You pay a lot, and there's ways around that, but like for people that don't have a job or anything, like this is kind of like a similar distinction between like a 1099 and a W2, where a W2 you like pay some of that tax up front. 1099 you get hit with it when you have to pay your taxes.
yeah. So the way that works out is from what I do is the standard practice that you should do is there's every quarter, right? There's 4 quarters in a year.
Hmm.
You keep track of how much you make per month, right? And then you take whatever amount that you make, and then you again take away money based on like what you where you live in, what your state
Hmm.
taxes and all this other stuff. For me,
Yeah.
I just take like a general 30% and pay it because I have no problem paying my taxes. Like
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not one of those weirdos that's like, oh, whatever. I mean, yeah,
Hmm.
sure, I could write some stuff off as a business expense, and I should, but
Yeah.
I'm not like that guy where it's like, oh, I have to do that. I
Hmm.
just do it because I don't mind doing that,
Yeah.
and so I take that base 30%. I pay it every month, and then I haven't had any issues with the IRS yet. So
Hmm.
that's good. That's
Always a good
exactly what you
sign.
want to do.
Yeah.
Always a good sign.
Yeah.
But again, if you do have to pay taxes, that's fine, right? You can always talk with the IRS and come up with a payment plan or do whatever. But
Hmm.
at the end of the day, the big thing is just you got to pay the man. Like there's
Yep.
no ifs, ands, or whatever. You got to pay
Hmm.
the man. Another thing too is if you do like a sponsorship or you do something, you have to disclose it's a sponsorship. Doesn't
Yep.
matter if it's like, oh, they sent it to you for free or oh, you gotta no, dude, you gotta
Like
put
it's
it
like
somewhere
straight
like
up law. Like you have to actually write it down. Like
you have to write
yeah.
it down. You have to like
Hmm.
put it somewhere. You gotta do a lot of stuff. Granted, it's easy if you go onto like I think the FTC website. There's
Hmm.
like a really cool like guide on how you do it. And
Yep.
then if you have like content creator friends who are actually doing this stuff,
Hmm.
definitely reach out to them and they can help you out. Or
Yep.
again, if you want the official breakdown, hire someone to like take a look at your taxes and
Yep. Get a
they can
CPA.
figure out from there.
Like
There
they'll
you
take
go.
care of you.
Yep,
Like
they'll take care of it. Yep, yes they do.
hmm.
Yes they
And
do.
like luckily, like I don't make that much off of like the channel itself. And it's not like I hide away from it too. Like I literally had a video last year, at the end of the year showing like this is like the revenue that I've gotten just off AdSense. I think the only affiliate was Right Stuff, and I had it near the end of it, and I think I made like $30 off of it. Which isn't
Interesting.
much, but it's
Yeah.
not like I like didn't like verbally promote it. I just put it like as a link and said this is an affiliate link for Right Stuff that gives me like like the jargon for the words for it. And like people purchase it and shout outs to whoever it is. I can't tell who it is, but thank you. Like you saved me like the subscription to like StreamYard or something that we do these recordings on. Like it does help.
Right.
What little it
Right.
is.
What is
Like,
it? I'm trying to think if I can find because I usually post one on Twitter, but with the way Twitter is, they always mess up the stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the last thing I can see here is October. So for
Mhm.
October, again, like I said, for here's a good one for example. On in October of 2023, Right Stuff gave me an $165.28.
Mhm.
Amazon gave me $270.61. And then
Mhm.
recently, for those of you who don't know, if you are a Twitter Blue subscriber, so you have to pay $8 a month,
Yep.
you get like a portion of the AdSense or whatever based on the verified views. So what that means
Mhm.
is if you post something and your Twitter Blue, you're enabled for ads. What they'll do is based on how many other verified users look at your tweets, they will pay you out a portion of that money to there.
Mhm.
So in my case, I gained a whopping, drum roll for dramatic effect, $10 and there you
Let's
go,
go. It
$10.67,
pays
which
it
it
pays
pays
the
for the
subscription, right?
subscription. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. For a grand total of like $446.56, which again, like I
Mhm.
said, 30% of that goes to taxes, 20% goes to giveaways, and 50%
Yep.
goes to me. And then
Mhm.
there will be times where I'm like, you know what? Like, I don't care. I'll like take all that money and just put it towards giveaways. So towards the end of the
Mhm.
year, I, got a lot. I think, well, let me see if I have that number here. I think it was like I got 600 because Amazon recently rolled out a new program where if you make a certain amount of sales, they'll give you like a flat fee. So I got
Mhm.
like $687 about around that much, which was really
Mhm.
great, which makes
Yeah.
sense because it was holiday. So I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know what? Let me go ahead and put that money back into the community because that's what I do. I always take that money and invest it back into my community and with the
Mhm.
form of giveaways. And I gave away, and again, for those of you who, whatever, I gave away all of Bleach, all of One Piece,
Nice.
and all
Nice.
of Naruto.
That's crazy. That's a lot of
Because
volumes too, like
it's a lot of volumes and a lot of money. And
Mhm.
there will be times where, like, again, there will be times where I do something and I'm in the red. And
Yep.
I'll sometimes, it's whatever. It's okay. It's
Yeah, yeah,
fine.
yeah. Mhm.
It's it's for the community that's, because for me, I come in with a belief where it's like, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now if it wasn't for the community. Like
100%.
I wouldn't have these like where am I at? Like 30K right now. I wouldn't
Mhm.
have that like follower count if it wasn't for the community. So as
Yep.
a way for me to say thank you to those of you who do follow me or who are about to follow me about through this interview,
Mhm.
that's my way of saying thanks. So I see value in that. And then this also helps, travel to cons to, see you
Yep.
guys in person
Mhm.
and,
Mhm.
being able to meet with these people, to do all this other great things and all this other stuff. So it's your money's being put to good use and the money
Mhm.
and I have no problem sharing that information. Now,
Yep.
other people are very like iffy about that. And again, it's fine. Not everyone wants to share their stuff, and that's fine.
No.
That's okay. But again, it's because I took that route that makes me stand out from the rest of my peers. And that's why
Mhm.
people really look up to me as sort of like an authority when I mean I'm just some random dude on the internet typing up some random, shit post, whatever. But
Yeah.
again, that's how I was able to gain that like authority, like uh role in like that sort of like, okay, I can trust this guy because this guy is like consistently doing this stuff. He's consistently doing these things. He's doing stuff that other accounts don't see. He's adding value to what I'm doing on my Twitter
Mhm.
feed or whatever. So yeah.
Where do you see, this account and this, like, brand for the future? Let's say, like, within the next, like, 2 to 5 years?
Oh, I can definitely see this account breaking 100K.
Mhm.
100%. I can definitely see it. Um, I definitely also see behind the manga also blowing up as well too, and definitely becoming like another like good resource for like again anime and manga news and reviews and everything because we've been making some pretty big moves. Um, Before we would just be a podcast because again, for those of you who don't know, I run a podcast called Behind the Manga in which we go into um all types of anime and manga news, and then every so often we'll bring on some people within the industry or within the community and
Mhm.
bring them in for like an interview, and we talk about so many great things and everything. And then it wasn't until later on, especially with the way Twitter is right now, Twitter just really does not like links, really does not like
Mm-mm.
genuine content. They want that engagement bait. They want that like full caps with like a out of context video that gets like so many views and clicks, to then later on get community noted saying that that's incorrect.
Mhm.
And then someone says, "Oh no, take that community note down. It's wrong." Whole bunch of crap.
Yep.
Um, and because of that, Winter really was like, "Hey, dude, I think it'd be beneficial for just me, but also everyone else to say, I think it would be beneficial to just start looking at other platforms to like put our stuff on, just so that they have like a increase in visibility and there's a place for there's like an archive for it."
Mhm.
So I spearheaded the creation of the blog and creation of the website and all this other stuff. And then lo and behold, that worked out for us really well too. And we've been getting, advanced review copies, which is fantastic. Again,
That's awesome.
I would have never thought it would happen, but here we are. We're getting press junkets, which again, we'd have never thought would have happened, but here we are. And
For those
now we're
that
gonna, like
don't know, what are press junkets?
okay, so press junkets / press kits and advanced review copies to kind of go into that. So press kits are pretty much like whenever you see like an announcement on like social media or something, what they'll do first is they'll push that announcement to news sources. So like in this case, it's like anime and manga. We're talking like Crunchyroll, Anime News Network, the what is it? OASG, WSS Talkback, whatever, right? It'll have like a big document of like, oh, here's like the mumbo jumbo of the thing. Here's everything that we talk about. Here's the piece of news. If you have any questions, contact such and such. And then what's our job is to kind of take that and regurgitate it into like a easy to consume format, or some people just copy paste it and call it a day, which that's fine too. Generally, it's like a privilege to be in there because again, they don't just give that out to everyone because again, the goal is to get people to know about that news. So the fact that we were able to prove ourselves with behind the manga to be able to get that's incredible. Huge. And then to also get review copies as well too, which again, very similar to like books, games, movies, and all this other stuff, right? With manga, you can get review copies through some of these publishers. Again, depending on who you are and what you're running and all this other stuff is available to you or not. And it's kind of like an unwritten rule where like, all right, so you get access to this review copy, but you have to like, again, in exchange, post a review, get like your honest like feedback on it, and then go through all this other junk too. But again, being able to work with these publishers and work with these like other brands to be able to do that, there you go. But like I said before, with the whole Beckett thing, you really got to vet out these companies because sometimes there's companies that you may think might be in your best interest, but they really aren't, and then they just aren't like really thinking about the grand good of it, and it's just there to quick buck. Like again, Beckett, don't get me wrong, I know some of my mutuals took that bag for the Beckett sponsorship, and that's fine, that's okay. Like that's how the game works. But for me, and when I did my research on it, I was just like, that is not, no, I'm not doing that at all. Like that's ridiculous. Another recent one, which you might have seen, is Casetify. So if you didn't know, Casetify is another like case, like a phone,
like an iPhone case,
like an iPhone case thing, very similar like D brand and all this other stuff, right? And recently they reached out to influencers to do their Jujutsu Kaisen collab, which I mean, it's okay.
That's pretty cool.
Right? Not too bad, right? But here's the problem with that. Earlier, before that collab happened, they recently got into a lawsuit with another YouTuber by the name of Jerry Rigs Everything for stealing his brand through another company. So he runs a collab with another company called D Brand, and they have a line called what is it called? I think it's like an X-ray type of deal, right? Where you can look at like here, I have it right here, where you can look at your Switch or have like devices, or I think it's called Teardown is what it's called. So you have like on the actual skin itself, you can kind of see like the actual insides of the
it's like almost exposed.
like an almost exposed type of deal, right? But they also do other like skins too, like I think let's see, where's my phone? Okay, right here. Like my phone, for example, has their Damascus skin on the back.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is really cool. But with that specific Teardown skin, Casetify was found to have copy pasted it onto their own stuff, put it underneath their own name, and then sell it as their own thing. And you may think, okay, well, I mean, again, you can't like sell an idea, and that's fine and all, right? I mean, you can have the same idea with two different companies, but here's the problem. What they did was they took their scans and everything, and they legit just placed their stuff over their stuff and found the exact match. And what's funny about D brand is they have like they put in like little jokes and Easter eggs and references into their skin,
Uh-huh.
and you could find those same exact Easter eggs and
Right.
jokes and references on the Casetify stuff.
Oh my
And I was
goodness.
like, what the heck? That's crazy. And then they tried to like, take it down and all this other stuff, but it's like, no,
Mhm.
dude, you knew what you were doing. So to see some of my mutuals take that deal
Yeah.
with Casetify, I'm like, oh, oh my god, dude. Like, don't get me wrong. I understand like you can't keep track of everything,
No, of course not.
but if you're
Like
trying to, no, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I didn't even hear about this case to fight at all. Like one bit. Like I'm hearing it for the first time because of like you just bringing it up as an example, right? Like there's so much news always. It's hard to keep up with everything.
Right. And again, like it's tough, but like we've talked about before when we're talking about like breaking news and like, trying to like,
Mhm.
whatever, it's worth taking the extra few minutes to do the research. Like it's very easy to see that big paycheck or whatever and just take it.
Mhm.
And that's fine. If that's what you want to do, go ahead.
Yeah.
But if you want to put yourself above the rest, you got to take that extra step to like take a look at what's being advertised, take a look at what the company stands for, take a look at what they're trying to do, take a look at like, if they recently got into any trouble, if they like, how do they conduct themselves? Do they treat their customers right? Do they do all this other
Mhm.
stuff? And if they don't align with your values, whatever. Now, sure,
Yep.
some may argue, well, if they don't work, I mean, well, I may say no, but they'll work with somebody else. And like, okay, but at the
Yeah.
end of the, so what? Like if they get in trouble, like we talked about before about brand like association, if that
Mhm.
brand gets in trouble, then they're going to associate that with the person who's affiliated with it. So say
100%.
for example, the Casetify thing, right?
Mhm.
With the Casetify thing, a lot of people don't, like you said, they didn't know about the whole lawsuit they're going through right now.
Mhm.
I bet you anything, if someone called that out on Twitter, which people did, but it didn't like expand out outside like the tech space. But if
Yeah.
someone called that out, yeah, you got it yourself like another whole big thing where it's like, okay, who took this deal? Who took this? Oh,
Yeah.
you took this? Oh, I'm not gonna
It's just
deal with
like,
you
did you
anymore.
not know? Like, or did you
Right,
just
exactly.
and then you get put under that scrutiny, which like, do you want that? Like, that's just more unnecessary, like extra stress. Like, we already
Yeah,
deal with so much. Like, why take that on? You know?
exactly. I think what is actually recently Timu reached out to me and tried to get me to like, do a sponsorship thing with them, and I was like, "Dude, no, I'm not. Absolutely not." Like, don't get me wrong. I don't know how you guys somehow got like 3 or 4 Super Bowl ads in the same one. You probably use like Klarna or what's the other one? Afterpay, like an Afterpay
Yeah, yeah.
game store to like somehow afford that. But like,
It's
no, dude, I'm
crazy.
not. Absolutely not.
And
No.
like, I'm not trying to throw any allegations, but I don't know who made that, but might not have been a person. Like, when I
All
saw that, I
right.
was like, interesting. But hey, just voicing an opinion, you know, no
Yeah.
confirmation.
No, for
Like,
sure. For sure. For sure.
how do you go about like nurturing these relationships with these companies? Obviously, not with like Casetify and Beckett and Timu, but like the ones that you do actually work with. Like,
Right.
what goes into preparing that kind of stuff?
Right. I think the big thing is just how you present yourself and how you
Hmm.
like uphold yourself. Because like a really good example is behind the manga. So with behind the manga, again, it's not just me who runs it.
Hmm.
Ask ask Winter Venom. He'll tell you how he just does all the work and everything. But
Yeah.
but no, seriously, we each of us like on that crew contributes to it to make the whole brand work. So
Hmm.
Winter helps with like editing, putting the script together, talking to publishers to secure that stuff,
Yep.
keeping a look at like who to interview next, but also again upholding himself and being accountable to his stuff. Same thing with me. Again, I jump into edit if Winter's not able to do it. I
Hmm.
write reviews. I also talk to publishers for advanced review copies and anything else you might need.
Yep.
Um, I also project manage the website, so if something happens, I'm the one who usually handles that,
Hmm.
and set up the block space. But again, I am also hold myself accountable, and the other two hold me accountable if I do something that's not right.
Yep.
And then finally with Vampy, who runs again Shojose News and Info, who again
Mhm.
mostly covers Shojose news and information and releases. She also helps edit the script and is like our residential encyclopedia slash fact checker. I mean, we're all kind of like, let's be honest, the more you get into it, the more you become your own encyclopedia and fact
Yeah.
checker.
Mhm.
But if there's something missing, she's the one who usually catches it pretty quick. She also
Mhm.
writes reviews and again, like I said, covers the show Joseph side of things. But like I said before, when we're talking about the Magura thing, we all didn't just come together and just did it. No, we all like came together because we all had like a similar viewpoint. We each vetted each other out. We really
Mhm.
like made sure like we're not like, had like hidden intentions or anything.
Yep.
And we all came together. We did the podcast, and then after doing the podcast for a year, we naturally said the next step was to, build that website, get everything set up and squared away because Twitter isn't looking too hot right now. So
Mhm.
rather than just staying stuck on Twitter, we'd rather just, start building up these other things. And as they say, don't put your eggs in one basket and
Yep.
kind of like branch out on other places so that it's there. And guess
Mhm.
what? Publishers notice that and they want to work with us and they want to, um, be able to, hey, here's this upcoming volume. Can you review this? Or hey, here's this press junket. Can you cover this? Or
Mhm.
hey, we noticed you've been attending the cons and
Yep.
you've been talking with us. We know who you look like. We know who you are. And actually, that's a really big reason why I started doing these interviews, like with yourself and
Mhm.
that parent. Where one of the criticisms I got was, and I think it's really funny too. So when I spoke to, I think it's Deb Aki, who
Mhm.
I think that's how you pronounce her last name, who helps run Comics Beat and who helps, does another other thing, right?
Yeah.
When I first talked with her, she said, "Oh, I thought you were a company, like you were a brand representative of a company," and I was like, "That's
No, like,
insane! Like that's
like,
insane to me." Because again, in my head, I was like, "Oh, okay, that's not bad or anything," but I'm
yeah, yeah, yeah,
did I really do such a good job that they thought I was a brand, not like
yeah,
a
like straight up
individual person?
corporate, like, yeah,
Yeah,
like,
exactly. And then we talked a little bit more, and then it's like, "Oh, yeah, so you're actually a person, not that." And
mhm,
I'm like, "Yeah." And she says, "Well, I think one of the things you should start doing is you should start like being like putting yourself more out there so that people know
100%.
what you look like, who you are, so that these people can, know you versus just an anonymous face." Like, or I think
Yep.
my face is like Reagan Arataka, which I think actually I see right
Yep.
there, right there.
I
But
couldn't find the exact one, but I was like, all right, I know Reagan, like, I like Mob, like,
yeah,
I'll find it.
there you
Like,
go. Right.
yeah.
Um, but having that identity with these publishers and everything really helps
Mhm.
you again stand out from the rest. So that really pushed me to go and say, you know what, if someone, and this is true for anything, if anyone watches this and you want to do an interview with me or you just want to sit down and talk about whatever, I'm fair game. I'm just a DM away, email away. I'm pretty much mostly free. If you want to sit down and talk, hit me up. We'll set up something and we'll do it. I'm not gonna tell you no unless you're like some weirdo on the internet that's like,
Yeah, yeah.
whatever. But most of the time, people who've come up to me and like want to do this
Mhm.
interview, I vet them out. They're pretty cool, and I say yes. Let's go ahead and get it done.
Like,
Um,
you were
but
super accessible, like, in so many different ways. Like, we met for the first time in person at Anime
yes,
NYC, which was, like,
yep,
my first convention, and, one, I was overwhelmed with just how many things I could do, and,
yep.
I was like, "Bro, I have way too many things." Like, I had an idea for, like, a video to show my experience, and, that petered out because I was like, "I don't know what's going on." Like, I'm just running panel to panel, but, in the panels that we did go to, you're like, "Hey, like, come sit with me, like, sit, like, right close with the Dark Horse panel or whatnot." Like, super, super resourceful and helpful, and, like,
Mhm.
that's amazing,
Oh,
and I
no, dude, that
appreciate it,
Dark Horse panel. Oh, dude, that Dark Horse panel, man, that was so for context. Okay, so, I was so at the Dark Horse panel, I sat next with my press junket buddies. They're all like, in news, all of these different like media outlets or whatever.
Mhm.
And the Dark Horse panel started. He was in there. And what is it?
The
Everything
guy
was
that
fine.
sat next to me was,
No, he sat next to you?
yeah, 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 literally
No
next to
way.
me, and he said his
No.
thing, I was just like, "Oh, man, like, I don't wanna be
So
associated with this,"
So
like
long story short, he stops the panel midway through and says, hi, is there like any like new license announcements that you're gonna make? And nowhere in the panel did they even allude to them doing that.
Mm-mm.
And but it wasn't like, okay, it's time for questions. No, this dude stopped in the middle as they were like as Carl and Zach were talking,
And they
who
were
were the
talking,
people at
like,
the
about things that they cared about, like, oh,
right.
like translations, like, oh, different versions, like, how the Western comics influence manga and vice versa, like, these were
Yep.
interesting topics, and, like, this guy was not having it.
Yeah, and then my friend left, so I called him up and said, "Hey, bro, listen, you want to sit up next to like, the press guys?" And then this dude, I'm telling you, he took the opportunity. He was like, "Yes, sir, I will. I'm gonna sit up to them." Did you end up talking with any of them, or did you just dip out after
Absolutely
that
not.
panel?
I was running
Okay.
so much, and I was, like, exhausted, like, I had
Yeah.
plans, like, I was like, "Yo, I'm gonna stop by Kodansha, I'm gonna stop by Dempa, I'm gonna stop by all these, like, start these connections, because like, in the future, I do want something for it, and, like, the only thing that I haven't done to start, like, actually reaching out is, like, kinda similar to, like, your instance where, like, the stuff that we do, anyone can really do it. Like, it's not that hard of a hurdle, like a hurdle to actually do this kind of stuff. And if you
Yeah.
remain faceless in any kind of way, like you don't have like your signature to it almost, right? And like I'm going
Hmm.
through a little bit of like, okay, like how do I express myself so that people can associate these things to me and not like just oh like I'm on YouTube and I want to watch this video on this thing. I need like a robotic AI voice and that's enough. You know,
Yeah.
because like at the end of the day, maybe that is enough for some people, but I don't want to be just enough for that option. So
Right.
like it's just like finding venues of doing your things. And um unfortunately a lot of my stuff is, a little iffy on the copyright. Like there's some rules, some things, and I try to change it, but like I need to get better at like modifying and transforming the material enough to
Yeah.
then reach out, be like, hey, like I'm not just showing this volume that people can just watch my video and not buy your stuff because I don't want people to not buy your stuff. Like,
Right. And I think
yeah.
in your case, I think they would like that. I mean, I think
Hmm.
if you like were to like, let's say this year we meet up again at like Anime NYC or something,
Yep.
you can present yourself and say, "Hey, I just wanted to say, like, hey, my name is such and such. I'm a really big fan of big fan of this. I really appreciate what you guys do. Is
Yep.
there any way like you can like add me to whatever blah blah blah? Here's my
Hmm.
business card. Which by the way, if you are trying to make these connections, always have
Hmm.
business cards handy because trust me,
Mm.
like when I like left Anime NYC, look how many
Yep.
business cards I have.
Oh dang.
A lot
Oh gosh.
from like all these different publishers and like translators, letterers, and all this
Hmm.
other stuff.
I
And
gotta
yeah,
get working. I'm only going to
uh,
2 conventions. I'm, like, upping like, doubling it because I went to 1 last year. So,
oh,
Anime
okay.
NYC, and then I'm going to Otakon, in DC. So those are
You
the
know what's
2.
funny? I'm also going to be going to Otakon and Anime NYC. See, so
Love
here's
it.
the funny story. See, I hang out with VLord, who
Mhm.
runs Manga Mavericks, and Sakaki, who again runs WSS Talkback, and those
Yep.
two are great buddies of mine. Like ever since like I met them in person, they were great. But here's the funny thing: they gaslight the hell out of me a lot just because they can.
Yeah.
So on I think it was like the last day or like when I got because we interviewed both of them on the podcast.
Mhm.
Um they were like, Raph, I think you should do the gauntlet with us. I'm like, what do you mean the gauntlet? And it's like,
Oh,
all
no.
right, so let me break it down. So we're gonna do the convention gauntlet. We're gonna
Yeah.
do I think right now what's going on is KatsuCon right now,
Yeah, it
but
just ended today. Mhm.
just ended today as of recording this. I didn't go because I
Mhm.
was like, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah.
Then it's Anime Boston,
Yep.
and then um what is it? There's SakuraCon, which this year is weird. They are hosting both Anime Boston and SakuraCon at the exact same time frame. So it's like
Mm.
one or the other. So I chose Anime Boston because I went last
Mhm.
year, and
Yeah.
I know my way
That's
around
in,
it.
March, right?
Yes, so end of
Okay.
March.
Mhm.
Then April, May, June, it's kind of quiet with like
Mhm.
some maybe like some local cons here and there. But the
Yeah,
big
yeah.
ones are July is Anime Expo
Mhm.
in the beginning of July. Then late
That's in,
July is
LA?
LA. Yep.
Yep.
Then it's San Diego Comic-Con,
Mm-hmm.
late July.
Yep.
Then early August is
Is
Otakon.
Otakon in DC. Yep.
Then late August is Anime NYC,
Which moved up. Yep.
which moved up from before because in years past they put it in November, but this time around they got the whole Javits Center, which is going
Which
to be
is crazy.
freaking
Because it was already
crazy.
crazy to begin with, but like,
Mhm. And so I thought it was going to be terrible with like the service and everything. Well, it's going to be even
hmm
more terrible now that the
yeah,
whole building.
100%.
Oh gosh. Um, so then after that, I think we're okay for September. I think October is when New York Comic Con happens.
I
I
believe
think
so. Yeah.
it's either then or October or November, one of those two.
Because
And then
November would be too close to Anime NYC. I don't think they would have it immediately after Comic Con. So yeah, I think it is October.
last year it was in October, so you're right. It is in
hmm
October this year.
hmm
And then October, that's there. Then November, December, it's quiet, and then the whole uh,
Resets.
cycle starts again with
hmm
January being nothing, then KatsuCon in February, and
And then
then
rinse and repeat.
rates and repeat. That's right. So it stinks because it is a lot of money. So I am,
Yep.
busting my ass at work, trying to get as many hours as I can, and
hmm
putting money aside and doing all this other stuff. But
Yep.
again, it's worth doing it because you're not just going for the cons. I mean, don't get me wrong. You should enjoy yourself for those cons and should enjoy yourself,
100%.
whatever,
Yeah.
because you're spending the money to do that. So
hmm
by all means, go have fun.
Yep.
But if you're, trying to build those connections and you're trying to like set yourself up apart, you gotta go to cons. You gotta
Super
attend those.
accessible because you're not going to meet these people like in person in that kind of way outside of these places, like
Hmm.
for the layman person. Like,
Hmm. Yep. Yep. You gotta meet these people in person. You gotta talk to these people in person. You
hmm
gotta introduce yourself. You gotta make sure, like, when you do introduce yourself, you do it respectfully.
yep.
And also, like, the platform that you have is, you're not getting into drama every day about like how you
hmm
present the news or something. You're at
hmm
least, for the most part, okay, right?
Yep. Yep.
So, yeah.
Well, if people that are listening are ending up going to either one of those, Otakon or Anime NYC, like pull up, say hi. Like,
You'll probably see both
hmm
of us hanging out.
hmm now I'm
Yeah.
probably not doing the gauntlet this year because it seems intense, one, and
No,
two,
yeah, yeah.
my August is already packed. I have Otakon and then I have Anime
Mhm.
NYC, right? The middle
Mhm.
section, I'm going to Japan for the first time.
No, oh, no, dude, that is
Because I
packed.
planned
No.
for August and I was like, yeah, I'll go to Otakon and then I'll leave. And then they moved Anime NYC up. I was like, oh brother. But I already booked the tickets, so like I'll be in Japan and I'll come back. So we'll
Bro,
see.
dude, you're gonna go through some serious jet lag, bro. That's
100%.
insane. That's
100%. So
actually
maybe I'll be cooked,
insane.
but it's okay. You know,
Well, hey, if you get seriously cooked, just let me know.
of
I got
course.
you back. I got you.
Of course.
I got
It's
you.
one of those like I'll probably be overwhelmed because like I haven't really left the country in the US for like a personal trip. I mean, it is a
Yeah.
personal trip, but like I can always call it business because like it's anime, it's Japan, like that's what my channel is
Yeah, I
about.
mean,
Like
I think everyone does
make stuff
that at
out
the
of
end of
it.
the
Yeah,
day.
like
So I mean, it's not like
hmm
whatever. Yeah.
yeah. So it'll be fun, and I'm excited for it. But gotta work. You gotta work hard to do those kinds of things, or like plan ahead, or budget properly. Like again, like when we're doing these kinds of things, this is all extra on top of our job, like our regular job.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's
Yep.
not the job, right? So
Yep.
like you just gotta make time
Yep.
for it.
Yep. I agree.
All right, we do have a couple questions that we haven't gotten to, but we are getting close to a pretty long interview for
Yeah,
me.
I mean, we can. Yeah, we can do like a rapid fire, or we can do whatever's. Like, I'm free, so whatever you want to do, go for it.
What do we have left that we haven't
So
touched?
let's see.
I think it's more of a hot topic because I do bring it up and like I feel iffy bringing it up when I'm like talking to like the letterers and like publishers because it's like
Sure.
scanlations and piracy
Oh,
when it comes
perfect.
to manga.
Perfect. I
Like
love it. Let's bring on board, man. Let's do it.
like
Let's talk about it.
it's the most accessible, but it does not help the industry in any kind of way. It
Right. So
directly.
yeah. So here, I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. So for me, this is the stance I'll take.
Mhm.
For titles, and this goes for anything with like piracy, really. It doesn't matter like with just specifically manga, but whatever.
Yep.
Anything.
Mhm.
If you legally cannot access or obtain whatever it is you're trying to get,
Yep.
I personally think it's okay for you to pirate it.
Yep.
Because again, if you legally cannot access it within your region,
Mhm.
what can you realistically do?
Yep.
Like realistically, what can you do? Specifically, like for example, like when it comes to like old Nintendo games, that like for example, like I don't know, before they made like all the Mario All Stars collection, where else
Mhm.
could you play Mario 64, Mario Galaxies 1 and 2,
Yeah.
um, Super Mario or Mario Sunshine? Like where else could you play those games
Mhm.
outside of those like whatever?
Yep.
Well, I mean, unless you have the console and you have the game,
Mhm.
which already, with going back to the whole reseller thing, those consoles go up for a lot, and then those copies of
Yeah.
those games also go for a lot because whatever, it's a whole thing to unpack, but
Yeah.
it's unaccessible.
And
So
those
ahead.
reselling stuff does not actually go back to the pocket of the person that made it, right? It goes to the pockets of
No,
the middlemen that are doing it. So, like
right. And I mean, again, it makes sense if you're like selling it off to like, ease off your collection or whatever, that's fine.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
if the whole thing is getting against piracy, you got to make that thing accessible,
Mhm.
at least.
Yep.
And attempting to like vilify that, I think it's just not going to be a good take, to be
Mm.
honest with you, because then you're just gonna listen. No matter how accessible you make your thing to be, there's always going to be someone who justifies that piracy, no
Mhm.
matter what you do. And
Yep.
at that point, you just gotta stay like you just gotta. And there's some people who just won't listen to reason. So a really good example is Weekly Shonen Jump titles.
Mhm.
So generally, the way for those of you who don't know, with Weekly Shonen Jump titles before the whole crackdown, the way it would work is you would get leaks Tuesday night,
Mhm.
then you get like a rough translation from your standard Twitter accounts who translate it, whatever. Then then like Thursday, like around like Thursday or something, you
Like
get
big
the
groups kind of
the
go to it.
scanlation groups who translate it, and then on Sunday you go and you get the official release.
Mhm.
In that case, I don't see a reason why you should be reading leaks or reading from the scan group because the Weekly Shonen Jump titles can be accessed for free and it gets released
Mhm.
all over the place
Yep.
at the same time.
Yep.
Now, I know there's some people who will complain about the translation quality, and that's fine to complain about the translation quality, right? But
Yep.
there's better ways to express your opinion versus just calling a witch hunt for someone for starting it when you don't even know the context. So, a
Mhm.
really good example is, John Weary with Jujutsu Kaisen. I
Yep.
bet you anything if you ask those people who are calling for a witch hunt for this guy, they probably
Mhm.
don't know that like he didn't start with JJK. He started halfway through the series.
Mhm.
And sometimes there'll be things where like, they'll make callbacks to the past volumes. Well, he hasn't worked on those past volumes.
No.
And he's also on a set schedule too.
It's a
So
fast turnaround. Like it's not
it's a
like
fast
oh yeah.
right. And it like you said too, it also depends on like when they get that chapter because there's some titles where they'll get like an ample amount of time to get that chapter.
Mhm.
But there's other times. So for example, recently with Cypher Academy, right?
Yep.
Sometimes they'll get the chapter like the day before. And
Which is
depending on how
crazy.
right. So depending on like how complex
Uh,
the thing is, it like dude, like seriously? And then not only that too, it's not just the translator. It's also the editor. It's also the editorial pipeline too. Because
mhm.
it's not just, oh, they translate something and go ahead. No. It's a whole process where it's like, okay, this is what the translation is like. This is what I think would work, but this is a literal translation. This is something. What do you want to go with? And then the editor will go in and say, okay, let's go with this. And then they go back and forth until they come up with something and they say, go ahead.
Mhm.
So, and it's funny because again, you see people attack John Weary for messing up the translations every single time, or specific accounts who will say, "Oh, Viz messes up their localization all the time and everything,"
Mhm.
but they don't go after. Well, one, their concerns are oftentimes misguided, but again,
Mhm.
if you had a legitimate criticism for it, you should go to the proper channels, not just like start a witch hunt or go attack somebody, because at the end of the day it's a human being you're going after, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then again, it's not just the translator, there's a whole editorial process too.
Yeah.
So
And
that's
like in
something
terms
that
of
people
like Cypher Academy, for those that don't know, it's written by Nisio Isin, and I don't actually know who does the artwork for it, but Nisio Isin likes to write a lot. So like there are complex word plays, complex speech patterns, complex amount of words, and like especially a 1 day turnaround is like insane to expect someone like
I
and
don't
like
remember if it's like a 1 day turnaround, but it's not that
sometimes.
not that much time. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Like that's a lot of work to put onto someone, and like we're not saying like these people are being overworked, but like it is like an unfortunate circumstance that you have to go through when you're working, like but like it's okay to give some slack. Like
Like it's okay. Like again, like we're saying, we're not saying like you should just take it and accept it. Like you can still have
yeah.
criticism of the translation.
100%.
That's fine. But there's a respectful way of doing it, and then there's the John Weary way of doing it.
Mhm.
Doing it the way people are doing with John Weary is not the way you should be doing it.
Or
I think,
what was it?
or
I think his name was like I don't think it's Tim Cook, but the person for My Hero that left Twitter because of fans.
I don't remember. I know who you're
Mhm.
talking about, but I don't
I don't
remember if it
remember
was
the name.
from My Hero. I don't remember if it
Maybe
was from
not.
My Hero or not. But again, right, like doing it that way is not the way you should be doing it. I
Mm-mm.
think Viz has like a suggestion box where you can go in and uh, submit your requests to fix translations, which they have. It's not like they
Yeah.
haven't. Like remember that infamous like Gojo panel where he said no, and then it
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
changed to nah, I'd win. Not gonna lie,
Mhm.
hot take. I actually prefer Gojo saying no because it shows off how cocky he is and it shows off like how he thinks he's gonna win. But
Mhm.
I don't know, people prefer the nah, I'd win. So I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, but yeah, again, there's a way to do it, and like I said, there's a respectful way to do it, and there's not a respectful way to do
Mhm.
it. If you have an issue, go through the respectful way. Trust me, it's very interesting and fascinating to see, you know, um, how language can be interpreted because it's not Japanese is very interesting because the same katakana or kanji
Mhm.
can mean so many different things,
Yep.
and it's very interesting to see how many people can interpret the same kanji or katakana in one way or whatever.
Mhm.
But again, like I said, just do it
And
the
like one
respectful
of the
way and
biggest things when it comes to like the Weekly Shonen Jump ones is like they're like, "Oh yeah, I don't want to wait that long." I was like, "Well, so let's say you're reading it like when you get like the text like note translation Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, you still have to wait 7 days from that point to get the next one. If you just shifted that day to a Sunday, you'll get the same wait period, but you're getting a superior like in most areas a superior product that is free. There's no excuse, right? Like
right,
there's
it's
no excuse.
free and it releases
Yeah.
everywhere at the same time, so there's no
Hmm.
excuse. But again, at the same time though, in titles where because I did you go to the localization panel
I
at
could not
MAIC?
know. I didn't make it.
Oh no, you missed. Okay, so there was someone
Hmm.
in the localization panel
Yeah.
who I will admit the way he introduced himself was not the best way. He said, "Oh, I am from a pirate. Oh, I mean Scanlation. Oh, I mean a Scanlation group." And
Oh
then
god.
one of
Okay.
the panelists, I think you know who they are, went
Yeah.
off on this person. And don't get me wrong, like
Hmm.
I 100% agree. Like that's there's definitely it's a big gray area.
Hmm.
However, there is just simply put some titles that will never see the light of day and that will
Hmm.
never see release, and it's been like for like a long time. There's a
Mhm.
whole plethora of reasons why a title won't or wouldn't. If we really wanted to, we could probably dedicate a whole episode figuring that whole
100%.
thing out. But
100%.
for sake of time, again, it's a whole process
Yeah.
and everything. But yeah, it's a whole thing, and sometimes publishers just don't publish it. And
Mhm.
so, what
And
can
there's
we
so many
realistically do?
things that go into, like, how to get licensing and relationship like, it's way more than, like, "Hey, I wanna make you money. Can you give me your title?" Like, it's
Yeah,
not as simple as that, like
right. It's a whole nuanced thing where, long
Mhm.
story short, if there's a if it's doing well in Japan, the Japanese will go to their like English subsidiary and say, "Hey, I think this is doing well. Do you think you should license it?" In which the U.S. person will say yes or no. If they say yes, then
Mhm.
they'll go for print, digital. If they say no, then that title gets passed on to like another group of other publishers, and then if
Mhm.
someone says yes, then they'll go for it. But if it still says no, then the smaller publishers will get a chance at it. And again,
Yep.
if someone still says no by then it's just kind of like up in the air, whatever.
Mhm.
But again, that's just a quick and dirty explanation of it. That's
Yep.
not for every single license, and every license is different.
Mhm.
So because of that, right, it makes sense as to why some of these scanlation groups exist and why they do what they do. Because again, the intent of a scanlation group is a group of fans together coming together to produce something localized in their language so it can bring more attention to officially get translated.
Yep.
Some people follow that rule to the T, and then when it gets simulpub, they'll back off and work on something else. Other
Mhm.
times they won't do that and just stick it for the money.
Yep.
And it's because of those people who stick it for the money that's the reason why they got caught by, the police, and now
Mhm.
look what happened. So
Yep.
again, I'm not gonna like vilify anyone for reading scanlations because I do
Mhm.
too, but I
Mhm.
don't read it for like um what is it? Like a recent example is something called Red Living on Edge, where it's
Mhm.
about an indigenous person who is going on like a revenge story
Okay.
against Union soldiers, and it's
Mhm.
very realistic and very brutal with its depiction of the whole Trail of Tears and the whole
Mhm.
indigenous versus United States relationship and just all this
Yeah.
other stuff, which I can tell you right now, based on what I'm saying right now,
Yeah.
that
It's never gonna get
probably is
like
gonna it's never gonna get like you will see so many articles about like it being too quote unquote woke when
Mhm.
that's not,
Honestly, this
whatever.
reminds me of, Me and the Devil Blues. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
I think yeah. Yep.
Very, by the same author that did Prison School. Um,
Oh, okay.
mm,
Okay.
very similar, like it's been on hiatus for, like, probably 10 years, so, like, that compounds it, but yeah, like, it's too not edgy, but, like, it's too sensitive of a topic area that, like, no one might wanna touch it,
Yeah.
which is the
So it's
nature of
like
it, like
yeah. So it's like it makes sense. But again, like I
Mhm.
said before, if you can legally read it and obtain it, do it that way. That's
Yep.
the intended way of doing it. But
Mhm.
if you legally cannot access it or read it or whatever, there you go.
Yep. Alright, any, lasting remarks? Where can we find you outside of Twitter? Is it
Yeah.
just
Well, I
the website behind the manga? That's the best source?
uh well, first things first, I do want to thank you for, reaching out to me in person at Anime NYC. And, again, I really like having that conversation with you in person and then
Mhm.
setting this up to now. I really enjoy, talking a lot and yapping. As you can tell, we yap for like 2.5 hours,
Yeah.
which I don't know, this is the longest one you've done yet. So RIP to
It
future
is.
you.
Yeah, yeah,
Or
yeah.
RIP to future you for editing this. But again, I hope you enjoyed this interview, and I hope your
Of course.
audience, whoever like watches this stuff, does too, because I like talking, and I think it's very interesting to
Mhm.
talk about this stuff. Um, you can find me again at Manga Alerts on Twitter or X or whatever it is,
Yep.
Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, um, TikTok and YouTube will kind of maybe later down the road, but not yet.
Mhm.
But again, I also run the Behind the Manga podcast, in which again you can find that on the behindthemanga.com, which is our website. But we are on all listening platforms, so Spotify, Google Play, Apple Music, all this other fun stuff. So if you want to check it out, there you go.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, that's it from me. I'll see you
And that's it for me.
later.
All right, take care, man. And thank
Of
you so
course.
much for inviting me on
Yep.
board.